ladies charged for parliamentary candidates. In addition, we intend to waive the filing fees by 25% for women and persons with disability. We believe this will go a long way to enhance the participation of women and persons with disability in the general election. Furthermore, we will, as in the case of 2020, waive the filing fees for the accreditation fees for our media personnel. We believe this will afford several media houses the opportunity to field more of their personnel in the field as observers come the elections in December 2024. We are confident that this gesture of goodwill would help increase the level of transparency required for the upcoming election and promote inclusiveness and ownership of our processes. That said, honorable members, I will now turn our attention to the Commission's 2024 election program. I would like to mention that our election calendar was discussed extensively at our Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting and received the buy-in of all the political parties. Indeed, the feedback from the political parties was fed into what became the final plan for the 2024 election. As you may be aware, we've concluded one of the most significant building blocks of the 2024 election. And by that, I'm referring to the revision of the voters' register. This took place from the 7th of May to the 29th of May 2024. Following feedback we received from the ground and from the political parties, the Commission extended the exercise for a further 2 days to make up for the slow network issues experienced in the first 2 days. Honorable members, the registration exercise was held in all our 268 district offices across the country, including the Guan district. In addition to 800 difficult-to-reach centers, or 800 other locations made up of 775 difficult-to-access electoral areas and 25 public universities. It is important to note that the choice of the 775 difficult-to-access areas was based on information obtained from our field staff as well as input from the political parties. It took a collaborative process to develop the list, hence the acceptance of our methodology by all the political parties. At the end of the 23-day exercise, we registered a total of 778,447 new voters, exceeding our original target of 623,000. Of the 778,447 persons who registered during the 2024 voters register, 63.68% use the guarantor system, 36.28% use the Ghana card, while 0.34% use their passports to prove their citizenship and age. Distinguished members of Parliament, the total number of females registered in 2024 sum up to 408,332, constituting 52.45% of those who registered in 2024, whilst male voters amount to 370,115, constituting 47.55% of the total registered in 2024. I'm pleased to note that following our engagement with the Ghana Federation for the Disabled, we witnessed an encouraging participation from persons with disability in the just ended registration exercise. A total of 1,341 persons with disabilities registered to vote, with the highest number coming from the Central Region. Additionally, the number of 18 to 21-year-olds whom we classify as the Commission as first-time voters amount added up to 646,884, constituting 83.10% of the 2024 register. As I mentioned, we classify the 18 to 21-year-olds as first-time voters. The number of transfers add up to 334,073, and the number of proxy voters add up to 2,364,000. Sorry, the number of proxy voters add up to 2,364 voters. Distinguished members of the House, I'm pleased to note that the total number of valid voters on our register to date adds up to 18,681,366. That said, it is important to note that all these figures mentioned are provisional, and they may change, although it may be very insignificant, after the mop-up exercise and after the exhibition exercise later on in August. Mr. Speaker, the provisional voters register as we speak is ready, and we have written to the parties and asked them to submit their hard drives to enable us copy the provisional voters register for their use and information. Distinguished members of the House, in our bid to provide timely information of the registration details to the citizenry, we missed a number of important steps in our data generation process. This resulted in some mistakes being made on some of the slides that we put out. We have since assessed our methods and introduced more rigorous processes, which we believe will guarantee accurate data going forward. All in all, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the arrangements put in place, the conduct of our field staff, the availability of materials, and the functioning of our equipment, among others, the 2024 voters registration exercise was highly successful. It was inclusive and highly participatory. To date, we have not heard or received any complaints relating to the disenfranchisement of citizens. Honorable members, we intend to undertake a mop-up voters registration exercise in the first 3 days of August, that is from the 1st to the 3rd of August 2024, to allow persons who turn 18 after the May 29th voters registration exercise to register to vote. The mop-up exercise will be held in all our district offices across the country, including the newly created Guan district. Additionally, we will extend the mop-up exercise to all prison centers across the country. We are working closely with the Ghana Prison Service, and we have obtained good details from them on the number of inmates in all the prison centers across the country. Honorable members, as you may be aware, we conducted the application for the transfer of votes exercise, as well as the replacement of lost ID cards in all our prison centers from the 3rd to the 5th of July 2024. This exercise, that is the application for the transfer of votes, was also extended to our security agencies. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we experienced some pockets of violence during the 2024 voters registration exercise. Thankfully, no lives were lost. The conflicts and violence stemmed mainly from the abuse of the guarantor system, which led party agents to challenge voters who were bussed to the centers by their opponents. As a commission, we will continue to advocate for the use of the Ghana card as the sole means to verify a person's age and citizenship. We believe that the sole reliance of the Ghana card to authenticate a person's age and citizenship will be the surest way of ensuring a credible register and reducing the tensions and conflict that.
I would like to submit forcefully that the victory over this Senate hotel sales matter is a victory for the Ghanaian people. It's not a personal victory. It is a victory for the Ghanaian people, particularly organized labor. When the Ghanaian people rose, put the country first, and did away with any partisan interests, because I don't believe that all those who have risen to oppose this transaction vote in one particular order or belong to any particular persuasion. And this should teach us a lesson that when we put our country first, when we come together, we will be unstoppable. And the politicians who are refusing to listen will be forced to listen. See how Rock City ran away from the transaction. And see how by midnight, SNIT is issuing statements that they are no longer selling. How many weeks have we been talking about this? When they saw the power of the masses, organized labor, threatening a lockdown by Monday, they decided to backtrack. But we will keep monitoring. The battle against state capture is a bigger one. It's not only this SNIT issue. See what has happened to judges' land. See what is happening to prison lands. See what is happening to parks and gardens land. See how even embassies, Bulgarian embassy, Nigerian High Commission, they have not been spared. The W.B. Du Bois Center, given away for 50 years. So the struggle continues. And this should not let us become complacent or rest on our horse. We should rather be inspired by this. That if we continue to put our country first, Ghana first, as I always say, and we come together, no recalcitrant, no intransigent, no belligerent politician can stop us from protecting our country, preserving state assets, and for making sure that state resources are kept for and on behalf of the Ghanaian people. We don't elect you to go into public office to take what belongs to all of us for yourselves. That is why I am glad that our private members bill is in its final stages. And I can confirm to you that in the next few days, we will publish the first draft to receive public input. We are calling it the Protection of Public Assets Bill, which will prohibit the sale of state assets to politicians. We want to ban all politicians from going near transactions of this nature, politically exposed persons. And when you leave office, minimum 5 years, you cannot engage in any state transaction. It is the only way forward. And I have no doubt that when this law is passed, you will see that the sales will stop because the politicians will have no interest.
The decision to call off the strike came after SNIT, in a letter dated July 12, 2024, informed organized labor that it has terminated the intended sale of its stake in hotels to Rock City Hotels, owned by Brian Yao Achampong. At an emergency meeting held in Accra today, Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Yao Ba, said they had decided to end the strike and requested all workers to resume work tomorrow, Tuesday, 16 July 2024.
On Friday, the 12th of July 2024, organized labor called on all workers to join an indefinite strike starting from today, Monday, 15 July 2024, to back our demand for the termination of the process towards the sale of 60% of SNIT's shares in the 4 hotels. In a letter dated 12th of July 2024, with reference number BC/12/07/2024, SNIT informed organized labor that it has terminated the sale of 60% of its stake in the hotels. At an emergency meeting held today, Monday, 15th July 2024, organized labor has decided to call off the strike. All workers are requested to resume work on Tuesday, 16 July 2024.
He further indicated that they had also given SNEEDs a 1-month ultimatum to engage them to address all outstanding issues related to the management of pensions of all Ghanaian workers.
We are giving SNEED 1 month to engage organized labor to address all outstanding issues related to the management of our pensions. Otherwise, we will advise ourselves. We thank all the working people of Ghana and all organized labor groups for their support. Solidarity forever. Thank you very much.
From the Hall of Trades Unions in Accra, Stanley Koblako for Pan African News.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. When the union is created, when the union is created, to the workers flush around, there can be no power greater anywhere.
It's a bank no see mahona. Me no even Messi for work a crazy. Ya kane. Yes, Kaka crazy is a Yabakohi. I was showing Yakobosa. If you could not make 200 cities, also some for 200 cities. First one of Fabra. As soon as making the plan.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people.
Now, if you missed it yesterday, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah, was actually in Parliament. She was in Parliament to answer questions on the preparedness of the Electoral Commission for the upcoming elections. The elections are in December. We are on July. The parliamentarians wanted to know how far we've come in terms of preparations for the elections. Before that, she had already made some comments that has attracted public attention. She made a promise when the Speaker and other parliamentarians paid a courtesy call on her as part of their preparation for the Democracy Cup. She said, I made a simple request that I will ensure free, transparent, fair elections. I can assure you of that. But I also expect that whatever results you declare, if you lose, take it like that. If you win, carry your victory home. Accept the results of the elections as declared by the Electoral Commission. That is the request she made. Yesterday, she said everything was going to be in place as in the 2020 elections. So, for example, no CI, fingerprints, of course, tampering will continue. You have to do the indelible ink will be part of the exercise. They will also not charge anything for accreditation to the media. Even the filing fees will remain the same. So those arrangements will be same. But she says moving forward, she still insists she will still move for the 2028. For 2028, that the election should be held in November, as was proposed. But the current laws will not be touched. The elections will be held as done in 2020. So that's a briefing from the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who is also making a simple demand on the parties. When we are done and we declare these results, accept the election results. We'll talk about that in our very first topic of discussion, and then we'll move on to the allegation of land grabs. In fact, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablako has been on the front of that, pointing out various lands, state properties that have been taken over. Most of them in the name of PPPs, among others. The latest he is talking about is the issue of the Du Bois Center. The Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources actually issued a statement in response. Now, in their statement, they set a historical context where they blame everybody else for the land, some of the lands that have been acquired. Some of them they said was given under the tenure of the NDC. One of them under Kufuor. Then the only one they admit responsibility for is the Park and Gardens land, Awa, which has also become the center of attention. So we'll be talking about that particular discussion. And then we'll conclude with what happened on Monday. On Monday, officially, Organized labor called off the strike. We spoke about it in the studio last week about the fact that organized labor was threatening a strike if SNIT does not pull back from processes to sell those 4 hotels. Now, we also told you that as at the time we're in studio, there has been a statement issued by SNIT, a statement issued by Rock City that's owned by Brian Chambo, who is the Minister for Agric. Both of them issued a statement withdrawing from the deal. Now, organized labor, in reaction to that, decided to call off the strike. But there's an extra demand that they are making, that they should be engaged within 30 days. Consultations. They want to know what is happening at SNIT that is leading to SNIT deciding that it is time. We have to sell these hotels. What else are you selling? What else have you given away? We want to know the state of SNIT and what you're doing to address them. There are people within organized labor, UTAC, who are now leading calls for the resignation of, for the 2 boards to be dissolved. MPRA, SNIT board, and then for Kofi Osafmafo, who currently has SNIT, to go in addition to his top management. So those are the issues we'll be discussing. The new calls for the dissolution of those 2 boards, the resignation of the top management at SNIT. So 3 issues that we'll be discussing today on the show. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. This is a matter of all talk shows. Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live from the Alhaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan-African Television. We are live on Facebook on Pan-African Television. We are also live on YouTube on Pan-African Television. We are live on Radio Gold. We are live on many other affiliate radio stations across the country. Joining me in the studio for the discussion today, he's a semi-regular, which means at least you see him once in 2 weeks. Lion Rapia Dankwa is from the Movement of Change, the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. Like I said, it's a face you know very well on Alhaji and Alhaji. Also, this morning, we have a man who spent about 20 years within the UN system, serving in various capacities as a diplomat. He is an African human development expert. He is Ni Amano Dodu, who also joins us in studio this morning. Nice to see you, Ni.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Doctor, let me go ahead. Dr. Ishmael Amano Dodu. Yes. And also, we also finally joined by it's really uninteresting. Well, Ajo Japomanso is a member of the NDC communication team. I was going to say something, but I changed my mind. So, Ajo, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Senor.
And of course, the panel will be completed by Comrade Ibrahim Butala Mohammed, who is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. He will join us a bit later on in the show. Now, happening this morning, is it Keep Fit for JM? Keep Fit with Mahama. Ajo, is it Keep Fit? For JM. For JM, yes. Okay. I understand they are currently on the streets and they are walking from, is it, please correct me.
From Spintex.
Okay, Spintex.
Wow.
Spintex to Nungwa.
Yes.
That's quite a distance. That's quite a distance. So that's happening this morning. There's also a simultaneous walk in Cape Coast. Of course, yesterday, if you monitored Pan-African Television, also on Radio Gold, you have heard Comrade Kwesi Prajimi actually deliver a lecture, the 12th Atamils Memorial Lecture, organized by the John Evans Atamils Memorial Heritage. So he delivered that lecture as part of the celebration of the marking of 12 years after his passing. There's a walk in Cape Coast that's currently also ongoing. But the discussions will continue here in the studio. If you're joining us, please do share your comments and thoughts on the discussions we'll be having. There's a number you can send 12 via WhatsApp or text message 0559 919802. I am Sena Nombo. Let's start off the discussion from the Electoral Commission. And I start with Lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa. Lawyer, good morning.
Good morning, Sena. I hope you are doing well. Let me take this opportunity to wish my senior forester, Dog, good morning. Always a pleasure to be in the company of foresters. I know people know me as a lawyer, but I think officially I have to tell you that I'm also a forester, a very proud forester, and it's always a pleasure to meet Dog the members of the community of people who are interested in the environment, in how we use our natural resources. And also, first time meeting you, Ajwa, I can see you are properly this one. I can see. I wish I'd come in my yellow t-shirt, so at least I'll bring some political balance to your station. Wish your lovely viewers a good morning. Hopefully we can do justice to the topics as discussed. Ordinarily, we shouldn't have any issue with the EC telling Ghanaians that I'm going to deliver for you free and fair elections, and that you should also accept the results when they are finally declared. Indeed, my view is that after 31 years of practicing this constitutional democracy, or representative democracy, or a democracy that requires that every 4 years we go and cast our ballot, that we shouldn't even be having a discussion as to whether or not the elections is going to be free and fair, and whether or not people should accept the result, because after a generation, we should have been able to build a culture that has a certain level of trust in our electioneering processes, so that by now there's absolutely no discussion as to whether or not the election is going to be free and fair, and the acceptance of the results by the political parties. But sadly, these discussions are coming to a fore, and for me it's evidence of a fundamental failure of all of us, all Ghanaians, to build the right political culture that would make the legitimacy of election results and of elections a matter of course. You understand? So the issue for me, and as in looking at this discussion, my concern, especially in the light of the Afro Barometer report, that seems to suggest that Ghanaians are increasingly becoming less satisfied with democracy, and that our confidence in democracy as the system of governance of choice is reducing. It makes the EC statement yesterday and what it represents a fundamental lack of trust, clearly, of the people of this country in her ability to deliver a free and fair election. Because if she herself had confidence that we believed in her, we believe in the electionary processes, then there would have been no need for her to, first of all, affirm her commitment to deliver a transparent, free and fair elections, but also to call on political actors to accept the results. Now, for me, the issue is, what can we all do as a people to build that confidence in our electioneering process? What can we do as a people to ensure that 30 years from today, we won't be having a discussion, a conversation about our accepting election results, about the EC's abilities to deliver a free and fair elections? You understand? Because if there's something fundamentally wrong with our society, and I must say, I'm not too happy always speaking about what is wrong about our system, but clearly there's something fundamentally wrong with our system. You understand? And that's why after 32 or 31 years, after a whole generation, we have not managed to build the right political culture which can sustain democracy. Because we need to understand that what sustains democracy, what sustains constitutional democracy, is the right political culture. That's what history has taught us. You understand? We need to create a political culture that is participatory in nature. We need to create a right political culture. That means that what fuels our politics, is born out of a fundamental interest in what is in the ultimate interest of our country. Sadly, over the past 30 years, and especially over the past 8 years, we've built a culture that is very parochial in nature. We built a culture that is very parochial in nature, so that people who are placed in position to make decisions, and we are all placed in positions to make decisions, because like I always say on this your platform, that the first decision we make is a decision by the people, all of us, as to into whose hands are we going to place powers of government. That's the first decision we make. Now, when the people of this country are making those decisions, what fuels it? Is it fueled out of a fundamental interest in what is in the interest of the country? Or is it fueled by their personal parochial sentiments? 2, when we've chosen our leaders, the president himself chooses his ministers. When we've chosen our parliamentarians, what also fuels the decisions they make? Because what is happening in this country is, especially over the last 8 years, we've seen a war being waged on all the democratic institutions, essentially weakening the ability of the system we've created to achieve its purpose, its promise. Especially critical ones like the EC, like the judiciary, like the security agencies. Yeah, I understand. Now, like I said, we've created a political culture that is parochial in nature. We've created a political culture that is fueled by a devotion to protect the interest of our political parties as against the country. That's the political culture we have created in this country, and that's what I mean by parochial. We've created a culture where actors in the political space are more interested in taking decisions that will advance their personal political ambitions. We've created a political culture where people are more interested in power itself, in control, as against what is in the best interest of this country. So what do we use the power we have for? And the examples are, as in, when you have a trade minister, when I say trade minister, I'm not talking about the best trade minister we've had. I'm not talking about Lanche Martin. He's a fantastic leader. I'm talking about Katie Hammond, who, in the face of escalating cement prices, refuses to look at the macroeconomic situation, and rather wants to take us back to the dark ages where we controlled prices. One would have thought that would be an opportunity for him to build up our antitrust regime, because we know that when you want to deal with issues of competition, of monopoly, then you deliberately need to build an antitrust regime. But he won't do that, because what is fueling him is the culture, the political culture we've built in this country, the parochial political culture. So when the president is making appointments, or when you have a president who has no qualms to appoint people who we all know are members of his party, and the demand here is not just in appointing people who are members of your party, but you shouldn't appoint anybody who has a political coloring. So, for example, no president should think about appointing me, Andrew Appiah-Dankwa, onto the EC. Or if I'm fueled by the right spirit, then where the president has made such a mistake and has appointed me onto the EC, that should have the sense, I should have that sense of patriotism to say that, listen, this appointment, in as much as it advances my personal political interests, it would not be in the interest of the country. So I decline. Also, what spirit? Clearly, if the president was not being fooled by this culture I'm talking about, and see, and I don't to dwell just on the president, but when it comes to this culture, the blame must be on all of us. But I'm mentioning the president because when you're a president, and when you are exercising your executive power as well, when you understand that being a president means that you are being placed in a position of leadership, not necessarily positional, not necessarily I'm president, but when you're president, you are a leader. You understand? And when we are doing things properly, then your focus really should not be what has been all of us are focused over the years. So when we are making an analysis of our work presidents have done, we limit it to he built 3,000 roads, he built 5,000 schools. You understand? Because if we had the right politics in this country, build the right systems and the right institutions, then building of roads, building of schools will be a matter of course. Then you, the president, you use that power of influence, leadership, to shape that right political culture, which won't be parochial. But because we've all sat down and have allowed this spirit, this familiar spirit, this foul spirit, this parochial spirit to fuel our politics, then you realize that every decision that is taken, especially over the past 8 years, is not fueled by a love, deep-seated love for our country. And in fact, it is even more disappointing when the framers of our constitution, understanding the impact, the role, the power of the right political culture to sustain this democracy. Because, bless, when you understand the purpose of this democracy, the purpose being to protect our lives, to protect our liberties, then what it tells you is, then we are all burdened, or we should all be burdened with a desire to do everything to protect this democracy. But right now, people who I would say, or would think, or have demonstrated the right political spirit in this country, right now are doing acts that seem to suggest that they are also being permitted by this parochial politics. Because you take somebody like Parochial, a man I respect so much. And for me, one of the people who, over the years, I believe, has done politics fueled by a deep-seated love for his country. Because if you recall, Parochial was somebody who was brought into the country by the Alhaji regime to help in the divestiture implementation agenda. So he was brought in and undertook that project. Then joined president for the first time. Another president who realized that to build a country, then you need to create an all-inclusive government. So it shouldn't matter which party you are in. Because I will say this, that if Ghana is a country that does not lack the human resources, we have excellent people all over, spread across the globe. So why are we not using them in building a country, in driving policy, in driving leadership? But we've had few presidents who didn't mind bringing people onto their teams, you understand, irrespective of their political career, so far as they had the qualification, they had the right commitment. So he brought Parochial into his government. In my opinion, he did a fantastic job. And yet in 2008, when the elections went into a runoff, he didn't say that, listen, because I was an MPP government, in the runoff, I'll support Nana Addo as against Atta Mills. Parochial believed that at that point in time, Atta Mills was better for this country. So he threw his support behind Atta Mills. Indeed, Parochial got his banking license, I think, under the NDC regime. And yet in 2016, Parochial told the whole everybody that I do not believe that this regime under which I got my banking license, indeed this regime that was brought up by a party that actually brought me into the political space, gave me the opportunity to serve. I don't believe the person who is leading them now is capable of creating the right economic environment. So Parochial didn't support President Mahama. He supported openly Nana Akufo-Addo. I lie. So yesterday I've seen pictures of Parochial with President Mahama. I've seen promises of his banking license being restored. And so what is Parochial telling us that he's going to support President Mahama, a person he said in 2016 that he did not believe, after having experienced his presidency, had the capacity to build the right political or economic environment. Is this now saying that suddenly President Mahama has what it takes to build the right economic environment? Or what is fueling right now his parochial interests?
Well, to be fair to him, I think he's even met the leader of your movement.
Yeah, but what was that discussion? It was yesterday the news, unless we have been given wrong news. You understand? that he should restore his bank license? Does he not trust in the system? Does he not trust in the institutions? Yeah. What I'm saying is, sometimes in how we do our politics, we even weaken the ability of leaders to dispense with leadership. Yeah, understand? Because is he now saying that he does not trust in the system? Because what took his license was not the president. What took his license was the law. Alhaji. What took his license was the law, the Bank of Ghana, and who acts under the law. The matter is in court. So what business does he have telling people who want to be president that they should restore his license? That's the beginning of corruption, and corruption will begin because what is fueling him is that parochial political culture, which we must all fight against. Because there are enough examples of what has happened to countries fueled by that parochial political culture. And right now, Ghana as a people, as a country, we stand at the place of where we are right now, where Ghanaians are saying that they are dissatisfied with democracy. And why is this so? Why has there been a fundamental loss of trust in political leadership? It's because of the culture we've created. That parochial political culture. That parochial political culture that caused the president to weaken the EC. Because when he was making all those appointments into the EC, what was fueling that was, how do I sustain myself in power? How do I sustain my political party in power? It was not what is in the best interest of the country. And so right now we are entering into an election where the EC has an almost impossible task. Almost an impossible task. Because I always say, the burden on the EC is not just to deliver for us an election that is free and fair. The burden on this EC is to deliver an election that is perceived to be free and fair. But already, because of the perception within the generality of Ghanaians, because of the appointments the president made, she has an almost impossible task. She has an almost impossible task. It is for these reasons why I think that going into 2024 elections, one of the fundamental considerations of Ghanaians, because we're also going to make a decision. Now, that decision we make should not be fueled by parochial interests, because I always say we all have an interest in this country. But our overriding interest should be, what is the interest of Ghana? Because if you have the right economic environment, general right economic environment, if you have the right political environment, if you have the right culture, if you have the right educational environment, if you have the right social environment, then I can tell you we have a Ghana where the probability of you making of yourself what you can and will will almost be guaranteed. Will almost be guaranteed. You understand? So our interest going to 2024 is to choose a leader who can, beyond, for me, the issues are called matter of course, the infrastructure development, will also give the right leadership that will fuel and create the right culture, the right participatory political culture, a political culture that is inclusive as against being exclusive. A political culture that is born or fueled by a deep-seated love for our country. A political culture that will create the right framework, the right intellectual environment for political discourse to be had, the right political culture that will ensure that people in public positions will realize that by virtue of their being in that position, in those positions, then they are barred from taking part in any bid that concerns public property. That's the kind of leadership we need. And that leadership will start when we choose a leader who has a program, who has a desire, who has a commitment in forging that one Ghana. Because I've heard all the leaders. After His Excellency Mahmoud Bawumia, he is already divisive. He says we should vote for him because he's an Ofna. He goes and meet Muslims, say vote for me because I'm your Muslim brother, so vote for me. There's no plan. He goes and he goes and dance because he knows that they've created that parochial political culture, which one of whose features is that people will exclude themselves from the issues, from the political issues, because their considerations will not be whether you can do the job or not. The consideration will be, is he from a party? Is he from a tribe?
Okay.
Do I know him personally? Is he my friend? So he is out. You also have former president who says that he won't be father for all. So he said that he can't do the job. Because, you see, the oath that he will take, should he become president, he took that oath, he will take it again. Says that he's going to dedicate himself to the well-being of all Ghanaians, and that he's going to be fair to all manner of Ghanaians. And I found that statement very disappointing, because I always thought that one of the strongest points of President Mahama was the fact that he was father for all. But when he was president between 2013 and 2016, I didn't feel that he was partial. I didn't get that sense. My issues with him were how he managed the economy. But he had not. I didn't have issues with how, in terms of whether he was biased or not. So it was quite disappointing that you say that he can't be father for all. And the excuses they are given won't hold, because we all know that it's not the president's job to prosecute. There's a reason why of all the ministerial positions, the Constitution created the Attorney General and said it is his job to prosecute. So it cannot be an excuse that when I come, I'm going to prosecute. No, it's not a job to prosecute. But you have Honorable Alhaji who has created a movement, whose key anchor, one of the key anchors of that movement, is a desire to create a government of national unity. To create a system which includes, politically, a system where it shouldn't matter whether dog here supports the movement or not. It shouldn't matter. But so far as dog has the expertise and has the commitment, then he has a fundamental role to play in that movement. That's where it should start. That's where it should start. Because unless and until we get the right leadership that would show the way, give the direction in creating that right political culture. Because it was Madison who said, President Madison of the US, that if leaders were angels, then there'll be no need for us to have controls, whether internally or externally. But because leaders are not angels, then they need controls.
Okay.
You understand? So within the Constitution, we think that the legislative, as in the Parliament and the judiciary, will give those controls. But if there's one thing history has taught us, that the biggest control on government is the people.
Okay.
The biggest control on government is the people. But to do that, then you need a population that participates in their democracy, in how politics is done. And you can only achieve that if the people are educated, if the people are informed, if the people are fueled by a deep-seated love for their country. And so, if you want to lead this country, then you should have that at your as a focus. Okay. So, and I can see you want to sack me. You are on your head. So, to bring my submission to a close, I say this: that going into 7 December 2024, we are going to take the first decision in this cycle, and this decision should not be fueled by a parochial culture. This decision should not be fueled by tribalism, tribal considerations. In fact, this decision shouldn't even be fueled by partisan consideration. This decision should be fueled by a Ghana consideration. And if our decision on 7 December is going to be fueled by a Ghana consideration, then it will be a decision that will be for Honorable John Kojo Martin, who is saying that I'm going to build that Ghana that includes all of you. It shouldn't matter whether you're NDC or NPP. All I require from you is a deep-seated love for this country and merit. And merit. Once we do that, then we'll have situations where institutions will be destroyed. We won't have situations where the EC would have such low confidence in the job she's going to do, to the extent that she'll go around begging political parties to accept the results, irrespective of what they are. Okay. When that happens, finally, we'll build this country, we'll build the right culture which will sustain the constitutional democracy we've taken for ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, in order that this Hindu matter does not become a major issue, I'm going to read to you the Daily Graphic's publication of what what he said when he went to meet Mr. Alan Chomantin. Now, this is a daily graphic. He told Mr. Chomantin that GN Bank was reclassified, and I'm jumping many paragraphs, but I said GN Bank was reclassified as GN Savings and Loans and given a 6-month period to meet specific requirements, which he said were all satisfied. The requirements the Bank of Ghana gave them, including changing of the name and downsizing. He said the BOG even went further to assign somebody else upon as advisor to GN Savings. According to Dr. Andum, it was therefore a surprise to him when the BOG revoked the GN requirements, the GN Savings license after meeting all the requirements it gave to them. Then this is a quote from him in terms of what he's asking of all flag bearers, not only former President Mahama. In fact, he's already been to Honorable Alan Chomantin, has been to Nana Kwame Bediako. This is what he says. We are here today to present a petition to you, so that if you become president, then you know there is GN Savings license issue you have to resolve. Then it continues, as president, you inherit good and bad things. So I know if this administration doesn't give the license to us, you will do it. In fact, he plans to go to even Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia.
What I'm saying, we have the courts. We have the court systems. The president didn't take his license. It was the Bank of Ghana that revoked his license. He's challenging these issues in court. We should allow the systems to work. Okay. Yeah, so he should go to court and make his case if he thinks what's called his license. But he's chasing this on very parochial considerations and laying the basis for future corruption. That's what is happening. He should go to. He's in the courts. He should allow the courts to work.
If you make a comment, you have to be the next person to speak for me. So if you agree, yeah, okay. So I'll bring you in shortly. Okay. This is Robert Kofi, who is watching us on Facebook. Says this boss and workers will go down as the worst EC ever in the history of Mother Ghana, together with Nana Addo, the president, and they all have blood on their hands for killing people during the 2020 general elections. Sawari Jacob says, well, to err is human, to forgive is divine. Dr. Papa Kwesi I advise that raise the flag of NDC higher everywhere you go. We the grassroots saw your work in 2016 against the party, and today you think it's NDC that can salvage your businesses. Then we need to work harder for the success of the great NDC. I think everybody's misunderstanding this thing. The man is not specific to the National Democratic Congress. He's going to every one of the leading flag bearers. Where he will get salvation, he doesn't mind. You even go to Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia. Well, Honorable Mutala, welcome. Good morning to you.
To your cherished viewers, and good morning to my controversial butterfly friend, my brother, and of course my sister, and most importantly the good people of Panelist. I think the lawyer has been unfair to Dr. Kwesi. I will be disappointed if he goes to Dr. Bawumia. I will be extremely disappointed. And if he hasn't done that, I urge him not to do that. The reason why I'll be disappointed if he goes to Dr. Bawumia is because Dr. Bawumia was an active participant in taking the decision to collapse these banks. Because he is and he was the chairman of the economic management teams. So why would you be going to the very person who ensured that your bank was collapsed? So I will be shocked, and whoever is listening, his people, they should advise him. If he goes there, some of us will be very critical of him. Why? There is nothing wrong with anybody going to a flag bearer if you think that elections are going to be held. We all do know that the decision to collapse these banks were not decisions that were taken on the basis of the management of banking system in this country. It was a political decision. As a matter of fact, the former Minister for Finance was allegedly reported to have said when he was in opposition that if they get power, they would deal with certain banks, particularly the Unibank. So granted that this allegation is true, it's not even true. The actions of the minister and the actions of the government in general on the matter of the banking was just disastrous. And for me, it gives credence to the fact that it was purely a political decision. Heritage Bank, on what basis did they close that bank? In terms of the capitalization they expect, the Heritage Bank had it. Heritage Bank had the money. But the reason is that they could not vouch for the source of the money because he was being prosecuted in a matter that involved Ghana Cocoa Board. There were a lot of banks like that. So, lawyer, it was not a decision taken based on banking practices. It was purely a political decision. A decision that was influenced by vendetta and hate. And that was the reason. So if you have somebody who feels that this decision was not a decision based on evidence, and mind you, I watched the video, and he indicated that even the governor of Bank of Ghana, that man should go to jail, that governor of Bank of Ghana. Even the governor of Bank of Ghana had an interactions with him and advised that they change it to a loans and what's the name?
Savings and loans.
Savings and loans, because they could generate the 15 million Ghana cedis, which they did. The Bank of Ghana itself gave them criteria, certain things, conditions they needed to meet. They met all those conditions, sent a report to Bank of Ghana, only for the bank also to be taken over by this government. So clearly, it was purely a political decision. Look, I have serious problems with Ndum. The fact that he did the kinds of things he did against President Mahama. But you see, it is once again a demonstration of how tolerant President Mahama is. It is once again a demonstration of how President Mahama easily forgives. And sometimes people take advantage of his tolerant nature, his forgiving nature, the empathy and sympathy he shows not only to members of his party, even his very serious critics. A+, his own statement virtually was insulting President Mahama. And he himself said when he met President Mahama, the way he treated him shocked him. Many people, including Kennedy Ajapong, have all stated that. Do you think you can get that from Dr. Bomio or President Nanado? No. So, frankly, I don't see anything wrong with that. Maybe perhaps, I don't know what other reason is influencing lawyers' position on this matter. I don't know. That's why I say I don't know. So, frankly, I don't see anything.
You already have the benefit of the entire submission.
No, I listened to you in my car on my way to this place. And so I'm saying that because I don't get it. There's nothing wrong with anybody doing that. For me,
saying that the systems must be
exactly. And you know what he said resonated with the held view of President Mahama in the matter of this banking system and the collapse. You told us that the entire liabilities of those banks was around 7 billion. You ended up spending over 25 billion in a matter that you were seeking to find a solution to banking system that involved just something. And the foreign banks are happy. They are very happy.
If I may. Yeah. Yeah. So that we don't spend so much time on it. That is not the topic of discussion. I apologize. Absolutely. Please move on to the AC matter for me. I beg you. If not, everybody would like to have a bite on this.
The topic we're looking at is the Jin Mensa.
Yes. In fact, it was before you yesterday.
Yes. Yesterday, yeah. I was in the chamber, and I needed to attend a workshop organized by the Auditor General. We shall be going around for the 2023 Auditor General's report. And usually, the committee, the Public Accounts Committee, anytime we have to start, we have a workshop with the Auditor General to take us through, some of their findings, why they arrived at where they arrived at. And so I went there for the workshop. By the time I got back to Parliament, they were winding up. But I did make some statements to the listening of Jin Mensa, Dr. Bosman Asari, and the other MPP activists. These are all MPP activists who unfortunately have been appointed by President Nanado to manage the affairs of elections in this country. The fact that I didn't say it in the mic, that is why it can't be recorded officially. But the point I made was that I told them that they have moral duty and a responsibility to ensure that the elections we are going into are conducted in a fair, peaceful, and transparent manner. That if their misconduct unfortunately leads to chaos and anarchy, they won't be able to escape it. That is a fact. If your misconduct unfortunately leads to something, don't think that you absolve yourself of any blame. And I'm saying this because, Sena, if you check, almost all the conflicts we have had in Africa in these contemporary times have something to do with electoral processes. Many people are not even aware that the Liberian conflict started remotely with an electoral process where they did an elections and a particular presidential candidate got 100%. and the votes he got were more than even the entire population of Liberia. I mean, I got to do this when I was writing my thesis. In fact, my thesis was actually on conflicts and so the effects of social infrastructure development in Africa, and I used Liberia. So I went there, I had access to a lot of documents. And it had something to do with that. Sierra Leone, it has to do with, once again, electoral processes. Liberia, Ivory Coast, we are all aware, it has to do with electoral processes. Many countries, we have seen what happened in Mali, electoral processes. Even in Burkina, people demonstrated or showed some resentment as a result of the outcomes of the elections and the conduct of those who manage elections in those countries. So in many of these African countries, the challenges for which reason those countries unfortunately plunged into chaos and anarchy were started as a result of the conduct of managers of the electoral processes. So the electoral commissioner and her two deputies have a moral duty and a responsibility. There is no denying the fact that Jean Mensa is an MPP activist. There's no question at all about that. You remember, when she was appointed, I said she was a family member to the wife of the president. Kweku Baku sat on news file and said I was lying. Kweku Baku has spoken, and everybody went to sleep. Only for it to be proven in court that she was indeed a family member of Rebecca Akufo-Addo. So ab initio, she was appointed to engage in theft of electoral process. Now you have Dr. Bosman Asare. He was my head of department at the political science department. I have said that a very good lawyer, but a disastrous deputy electoral commissioner. And he was MPP activist. He was my senior when I was at the psychology department and he was at the political science department when we were all doing our first degree. He was an MPP activist. He was a very active TESCON member. When he became the head of the department at the political science department, when I came to do my PhD, he was the TESCON patron. So an activist of MPP. They're not someone who remotely support MPP. He was involved in MPP's activities. The other person who is being elected, just the 2020 elections, he was a leading member of the MPP in Brown-Hafo region. So when you have such individuals who are all MPP activists appointed to manage elections in this country, then people will have the worry that people are showing every day. Now, my uncle, the MP for Boli, asked a question. He asked the electoral commissioner why she has to do with over 20 military officers following her around at the expense of the state. She is not the first electoral commissioner we have had in this country. As a matter of fact, she will be the third electoral commissioner as far as this Fourth Republic is concerned. We had Dr. Afarijan. Yeah. I don't think that she ever moved with even a police officer. We had Charlotte Osei, who was moving with only one police officer. There was a day I went to the mall with my kids to buy items. I came out and then I saw her. Then when she was moving, I saw one police officer who was at even a distance without even a pistol. This woman moves with a huge battalion. In fact, it's a huge battalion. There's a popular proverb in the band. They are shouting that someone has stolen saltpeter. And in the entire market, only you started running away. People clearly would know who the thief is. What is the fear of this woman? And that's why Honorable Yusuf said, look, if you do things rightly, we are not saying do things to favor the NDC. If you do things as expected of you by the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana in a more transparent, fair, and equitable manner, if you do that, you don't even need a military man or a police officer to follow you. In any case, have you lost so much confidence in us, our police service, that you have a military, about 20, a full battalion of military officers following this man? But let me tell you, in all those countries I have stated, where the conduct of the managers of the electoral processes led to those countries plunging into chaos and anarchy, the security didn't protect them. The security didn't protect them. Don't underestimate people who have resolved to defend their democracy and their right. Don't underestimate those people. So what we are simply telling this woman, do things rightly. We don't have any problem at all with that. And we do know that, inshallah, President Mahama will be declared the winner of the elections. Look, It is not just the surveys that have been conducted. Everybody in this country can clearly tell that the direction we are moving is that of abyss. The ordinary man on the street of Accra knew the graduate unemployed, and when they formed Graduate Unemployed Association, yet you have a presidential candidate who lies without the fear of God. And sometimes he lies against even the facts. If you have Dr. Baumia who says that, oh, we have outperformed this government in any area, including the economy. And I said, okay, maybe economy, he may try to come with some propaganda. Then he says, jobs creation. When the statistical service itself put the unemployment rate in this country at 8.4% under the NDC. And today, the same statistical service, and in the budget you presented, unemployment is 14.7. You still look into those figures and says that you have performed better than the NDC in terms of the jobs you have created. So what we are simply saying is that the responsibility of the Electoral Commissioner is to ensure that we have free, fair, and transparent elections. And the fairness of the process does not begin with only the declaration of the results. Because she said yesterday that the reason why she goes with a huge, in fact, a full battalion or 2 battalions of military officers is because of the threats and the insult. Which Electoral Commissioner have they denigrated and insulted than Charlotte Osei? Which Electoral Commissioner in this country? All manner of names. Insults. But Charlotte Osei yet still did not move with a full battalion of police, let alone military officers. And again, the argument that is being made that we don't have any authority, we only declare results that are transmitted to us. So the 3 results you declared, who transmitted those results to you? Who? Who transmitted those results to you? The 3 results, different results, you declared, who transmitted those results to you? Look, there's a popular saying in the Bani, that a troublesome child is not given birth to by just one woman. Several women can give birth to troublesome children. And that is what they need to know. Ghanaians will do everything possible to protect this democracy. And if anybody thinks, and I told her yesterday, that this is not an elections to be rigged. This elections is not an elections to be rigged. And the NDC is not waiting and expecting that any court will declare the winner of the elections. We are going to win, and we would not have to even go to any court for any declaration of any elections results. Because elections are conducted at the polling stations, elections results are declared at the polling stations, and the collation is done in the presence of everybody, and nobody can attempt to change the results. And if any results that is transmitted to the Electoral Commissioner does not tally with the facts on the ground, we won't accept it. And I don't think anybody would accept that. Because we saw instances where they declare results and even change them. Results that were transmitted to her and her deputies, they had to change them because the one that was transmitted could not tally with the actual happenings on the ground when the NDC provided the evidence. So for me, I would think that, and the challenge we have as a party, a lot of our polling agents, in fact some of them, they think that I must be the polling agent even if I don't have the capacity to man the polls. So even when the party, you take a decision that because of ABCD, we need to get somebody who can appreciate this to do that, they won't agree. Sometimes, because of the resources that will be given to them. And as candidates, members of parliament, we also have a huge responsibility. That you know, with your constituency executives, which polling agents have the capacity to do that. Those who do not have, talk to them. Change them. Whatever benefits that come with any polling agents will be extended, will be given to them. And I think that if we are able to do this, I think some of these problems are problems that we can surmount. Another thing has to do with the responsibilities of candidates. Look, in Tamale Central, by 7 o'clock, we had our collated results. By 7 p.m., we had our collated results. So sometimes you don't sit back for national executives of the NDC to come and do the work for you. That is why you are the candidate. The president can be seen there. The national executive can come there. You, the candidate and your constituency executive, must also take that responsibility. It is not everything that you expect that some resources should come somewhere. Put in the necessary mechanisms in place to ensure. The unfortunate thing that I also observed, and I will land on this, Senna, a lot of us candidates, it's like the moment the parliamentary, parliamentary results are declared, we don't have time for the presidential results. And I shudder to think that occasioned some of these changes in the regional elections of the presidential results we had. Because the constitutional elections, the parliamentary elections are declared in the constituency at the coalition center. So at the end of the day, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed got this because it's just a total number. It doesn't have any 50 plus 1. The MPP candidate, Wawi, or what do they call it? He got this. So the moment they declare, the Murtala and his executive and his coalition officers who were there will all start packing and moving away. That was what happened in many of the constituencies. So the moment you moved away, you don't have, even if you leave regional people to be there, but someone who was representing the NDC, not just the parliamentary elections, but both the parliamentary and the presidential at the constituency. After your parliamentary candidate is declared the winner, you need to be there. Because once you leave, they will have the opportunity to change the figures. So if they are able to change President Mohammed's figures in Tamale Central, Tamale South, Tamale North, Sanargu, Odododio, even if they take 1,000 or 200 votes, accumulate them, that's a huge vote. And that can lead to your presidential candidate losing the election. So I'm passionately appealing to all of us, including myself, that those we have elected as our polling agents in our various constituencies, they are not there to supervise the elections of we, the candidates, the parliamentary candidates alone. In fact, the biggest responsibility is to supervise that of the presidential. And those at the coalition center, once they declare the MP or the parliamentary candidate the winner of the elections, don't pack your bag and baggage and leave. You need to remain there. Because we detected that in a lot of the constituencies, that was what they did. And that's why they introduced this regional coalition. Any other move that any of them make to deny the people of this country their right to elect who they want to be their president and their members of parliament won't be healthy. So we are appealing to their consciences. Power and leadership is ordained by Allah and only Allah. When the time comes, please, just leave. And I don't think the people of this country can be subjected to this mess, this thievery, this unacceptable governance that President Nanado, his family and friends, and former girlfriends he appointed as ambassadors, and those moribund and incompetent ministers of state. I don't think we can tolerate that mess that is created any longer. And that is why everybody in this country is yearning for change. And Jin Mensa must do the needful.
Thank you. Thank you very much, comrade. In fact, I've been actually covering elections since 2008. What you said is typical. Yeah. Once they declare the election result, he has won, the people carry him shoulder high, they've all left the center. What happens subsequently is for you and the press. Some of us also follow him to say, Honorable, what do you think about? So we all forget what has happened with the presidential elections. Quite interesting things happen. Thank you. Well, I'll come to Doc because I need Doc to start the second topic for me. You have to wait a little longer. Well, this is Kojo Chumbuafo. A couple of comments for you. Senator, please, assuming that we want to listen to Jean and agree to respect final declaration of electoral results, which of the 7 results she declares will we get to respect? Is it the first, second, third, or 7th one? And continue, Senator Pakwesin Dumeke, a.k.a. Paul York, the certified foreign government asset, went to petition the very President Mahama, whom he termed as unfit to run the country, and jumped into the tank with a Kufuado. Now he's asking the very man who was spared his own chronicles bad for business to restore his license as against his former dear God in heaven. May Indum's license never be restored. Can I have an amen, please? And says, let me remind my brother, comrade in arms and former boss, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, that Dr. Ndum has no principles. If he had any principles, his banking license was given in 2014 by the same President Mahama. He said he was bad for business. For foraging around from flag bearer to flag bearer shows the man has absolutely no principles. In support of what Lawyer Apia Dankwa is saying, he should go to court and win his case. President Mahamad's tolerance was never appreciated. Enough already. That's Kojo Chumbafu.
People do change their mind. What he did, I see it as a representation of the concerns of all the other banks, Unibank, Heritage Bank, what's the name, Sahel Bank. I see it that way. Maybe perhaps they could have formed an association together and petition the president. No, but I'm saying that the decision to collapse those banks were not decisions that were informed by any banking practice. They were decisions that were politically motivated.
We have the courts to correct some of these.
I don't know what Ndum has done.
They should go to the court. We shouldn't support this parochial culture.
No, but
they should go to court.
Let me do a few more messages coming from our viewers and listeners. This is Dennis Akwete says, it is obvious Ghana currently has a partisan EC. The NEC should therefore devise a strategy to contain any evil move to skew the elections. First, the focus must be on the newly created regional coalition centers, and second, experienced people, including lawyers, must be deployed to monitor the elections in the Ashanti region, period. And with Isaiah 33:22, Ghana shall triumph. Dennis, thank you very much for that comment. There's some more that I can go to. This is Musa Abatwa. And Asawase says the 2024 elections in Ghana are set to be like a communal labor, with citizens turning out in large numbers to cast their votes. The widespread discontent with the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration, driven by issues of corruption and nepotism, has severely impacted living standards. This election will be a critical moment for Ghanaians to express their desire for change and accountability through the ballot box. ECHS should note that changing final results will be fiercely resisted. That's coming from Musa Abatwa. Jonas says, it saddens my heart watching the NDC on TV complain about the NPP pulling down their billboards and posters. Why? Are we not in Ghana when they were shouting boot for boot? What happened to that? If they cannot mobilize our men to retaliate, they better shut up. I'm foreseeing the same happening in the 2024 coming elections, where they'll be wasting our ears on press conferences for nothing. They should better shut up or take action. Jonas sent that one. There's this one from Sedem, Martin Kwame Sedem Sovie says, the Mensa should stop speaking grammar and do what the Constitution mandates her to do in all fairness. If she conducts the 2024 general elections as the shambolic one she did in 2020, Ghanaians will not adhere to her admonition. Thank you for that comment. I think, let me conclude it. Hardy in Pig Farm, who says, waking up each morning and realizing that Nanado is still our president is like watching a horror movie. Nanado was more interested in becoming a president and accepting the responsibility of a president. Dr. Dudu.
Yes.
Yeah. So we want to hear your thoughts on the very first topic of discussion. That's to do with Jim Menson's call. Accept the results of the elections.
There was a point he made when he said that President Mahama said he wasn't going to be father for all. And I'm coming.
Okay. Can yes, so that, because I need to wrap this up. Look.
How can you be a father for criminals? Yes, so he's not going to be father for those thieves.
Please,
Doc.
Even people on death row.
Please, let Doc.
So how about Ndum?
You should father for him.
So why are you worried?
That's the courts. The system was right.
Lawyer, comrade, let Doc.
I think that father for thieves.
Lawyer is very interested in President Mahama perhaps affirming that he'll be a father for him. So maybe but thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to join this occasion. To share some perspective and ideas with you. Listen to my brother Mutala and my junior brother Andrew. Andrew is sitting down watching everything. Your submissions have been very, very interesting. Now, what I feel is happening here is something that when you look at all across Africa, particularly West Africa, and I'm very happy that you Mutala actually did a thesis on some of the conflicts and how post-conflict electoral systems have actually post-conflict in electoral systems have occasioned serious crises in countries such as Liberia and Sierra Leone. And I'll say that if you look at even the genesis of the genocide in Rwanda, all of them have roots in that. There was also a genocide in Zimbabwe, against the Matabele people that have not been considered. So all of them, democratic transitions, which now what the UN is investing lots of money into, is something that has become very, very critical. It's because if we take to the first principles, where did we come from? In the 1980s, we were considered as the dark age of West Africa, where there were over 100 and something coup d'etats. Every country is subjecting itself to coup d'etat. Then came this animal called democracy, which was actually forced on us through engagement by the United States, that really wants to topple the bipolar kind of powers and want to promote democracy as a precondition for development financing. At the time, in the 1980s, almost all the countries are ailing in our economies. There came the Structural Adjustment Program by the World Bank and the globalization agenda to sort of help Africans, so-called, to rethink how we govern ourselves and manage our natural resources and our economy. So democracy in itself, we didn't have the time to really understand it. We were meant to really force ourselves into that transitional mode. So then the question we are faced with today, if you look at where Ghana has come from 1992 to today, we have seen democratic transitions that have come as a result of us just learning by doing. All right. So the elections that is going to be 8 times that we have had elections. It has been successful, but there have been a lot of problems. Some of them teething problems that we need to have addressed, which we didn't. And they all speak to one thing: that elections or democracies are the people. The concept of demokratia, which is a Greek concept, really talks about the ethos of the people. It's people giving power in terms of representation in parliament, or power in terms of people to lead them. In fact, now we use a lot of honorables, but in the time of Greek, anyone who is called honorable, and I'm not saying that my brother should not be called honorable, I would be glad to continue. you don't even want that title.
There are some people who absolutely deserve honorable. There's any pride in sharing that title.
But if you do something, if people give you power to represent them as a member of parliament, and you do something spectacular, then you are honored with the title honorable. So the honorable is not automatic. But now, assemblymen are honorable. Everyone. So I think, so anyway, the power of the people is something that we have to look at. Now, in order to do that, you can see that democracy is about institutions, and institutions are made of people. The credibility of the people really helps the institution to be credible. I've listened to a lot of conversations around the performance of the current electoral commissioner. I've also looked at, reviewed some of the appointments into the electoral commission. I've followed some of the conversations of the Peace Council, some elders in this country. I've also looked at the international analysis of the state of our election, and particularly the performance of the electoral commission vis-a-vis the ability to really ensure that this election is free and fair. I'm afraid that the notional view out there by electoral analysts all across Africa, that they are worried that the way the electoral commission had handled the formation of electoral process leading to elections can be quite dangerous, especially when you have a very tense election, which for me I believe is a do or die for NDC or MPP, because for the MPP they are wrestling to really salvage the legacy of the president. We are living at a time when also some of the corruption that have come out, that people fear that maybe they're trying to protect something. You also have gross mistrust of democracy and leadership in actually providing dividends for what people want. So there is, and then you have high rates of youth unemployment, and you have serious urban poverty, which nobody talks about. Now, when we are poor, it's a very terrible thing to be poor in the city, because you have no option, and the teeming youth. 60% of our 35 million people are actually urban poor. They don't have jobs. They don't see hope in their life. Even those who do very well in school today are not guaranteed placement in the university that they want. If you are not belonging to a protocol system, you are not going to have it. So nepotism has been at the highest. And if you come from Ododojojo constituency, where I come from, you are not guaranteed any future at all, because even the English, the school that you attend, they will not even teach you how to read and write, let alone to write a BEC with somebody in Morning Star. So if you are from Sempe or Bukom and you are learning, you are in a public school there, if you are writing a BEC, please, you know that failure is guaranteed. Now, so we are looking at a situation where the whole system is grossly filled with an idea of mistrust. And therefore, people have very little things to compare. Afarijan, what he has done, we saw Charlotte say and the work that she did, and then we have seen Jimensa and the spectacle of how, as a electoral commissioner, she handles herself, handled the team, the names of the constituents of the commissioners. Nowadays, it's only recently that you have all the major political parties attending meetings with the electoral commissioner and try to, in the iPad, in the tripartite meetings, and be able to look at how to run the election. So it's sad to say that the electoral commission today, as a referee of a free and fair election, is something that citizens find challenging, particularly those in opposition parties. And I'm talking about Movement for Change and everybody else. So if she comes to say, well, whenever the results is announced, you need to accept the results. And she is saying it rather than it becoming an organic expression of the citizens, of leaders, of church members and so on. Then it begs the question, what's she thinking? What is inside? Because that's very coded, extremely coded. You know, the beauty of democracy is that when results are announced, the one who loses will accept defeat. It legitimizes the process. It brings confidence in the electoral system. It brings citizens together. And the speech that will come from the acceptance speech or the acceptance of defeat speech is able to put everybody together to say, okay, this is just a contest, normally a contest of ideas, and we are nation building, so let's move on. It doesn't mean that if you lose an election, you don't have any role to play in building the nation. Apparently, you know, in parliamentary caucuses or, you know, teams that the president could put together, President Kufuor did a lot of those, all-inclusive members who have ideas, who belong to different political parties and leanings, and they take a particular issue to deal with. It would be beautiful to see, for example, how our education system is so, you know, it's so become so weakened that people who come from different political ideologies, but really understand the concept of human capital development in positioning a country to gain for what we're going to gain from the future of digital economy, leveraging technology, artificial intelligence, and diversifying the economy of this country through agriculture, to come together and say, okay, what type of skills, talents, educational system we want to have, and bring them from everywhere and sit down with them. Tony Blair did something very spectacular when he became the Prime Minister first. He literally called everybody and said, look, I've not governed before. You guys have been in Parliament, you've governed the country for many years. Advise me to construct the type of governance I need for the United Kingdom. So I think that we are in a crisis of lack of trust in the electoral system. So the question then is, what should the Electoral Commissioner do? The first thing I think that she needs to do, if she wants to, she says she's very transparent, she has to show it in her disposition. We don't need a battalion of military to guide you. You need to be very close to the people. What are you hiding? What are they protecting? You need to free yourself. Number two, her rhetoric. She needs to be seen to be more engaging with all the political parties. By this time, I would organize tea or coffee with President Mama, Paomia, and sit down with everybody. Let the whole nation see them having a conversation about how to make sure that this election is fair and fair. I mean, can you imagine a picture of Jim Mensah with all the political flag bearers talking dispassionately about how to really make this election fair and fair? Then she needs to also engage the peace architecture in this country. There are people that have been sidelined. There are voices, the youth in their own, the movements that some of them have, those, those who go for demonstrations, sit down with these people because they are the ones that are going to vote. She needs to really go out there to preach peace, to preach to show action in her own way of how she's going to make sure this election is free, fair, transparent, and it's devoid of conflict. My last point I want to make on this is that really, as a country, and as somebody who is handling affairs of this nation, you are not just playing for Ghana, you are playing for Africa too. The whole world has a spotlight on Africa today, on Ghana today. You know why? Because when you look at Ghana, our brand, in terms of the role we play geopolitically within international affairs, is extremely important for Jim Mensah to realize that a free and fair election, a peaceful transition to new government is something that will really going to underscore the ethos of democracy in West Africa. We have seen coup d'etats in many countries that we have seen, very significant countries. Now they are, all of them are forming an alliance of coup d'etats, Mali, Niger, Burkina, and then, Guinea and so on. Now, so it's important that we put that at the back of our mind so that both the flag bearers and herself and other people who are going to be part of this electoral machinery need to put at the back of their minds that Ghana is the beacon of hope of West Africa in terms of stabilizing West Africa with peace and security. Right up north there are terrorist groups that we don't know, we have not been able to codify, but they are there. There have been speculations about terrorist groups on the coastal part of our nation. Everybody is looking. Now, you don't want to give anybody an ammunition. One thing we have forgotten also is that small light weapons, that are in the homes of a lot of these youth are uncountable. In many regions, they are uncountable. People know how to use guns. Guns are manufactured here, and some of them have found they found in the hands of terrorists. You are not going to give an opportunity for anything that would erupt. And Greater Accra, the capital, by 2030 is going to be $30 billion GDP, as per the World Bank's predictions. Significantly, goods and services are going to move out of here. By 2030, let's say 2040, 8 out of 10 global workforce are going to come from Africa. Right? Our population is growing. Ghana has a potential to really grow our population. Our land mass is similar to the UK. UK has 65 million. We have 35 million. We can organize ourselves to grow our population very fast. Our geopolitical positioning in West Africa and to Africa and the world is such that Ghana can be the hub of major processing, manufacturing, packaging, and economy. We could be the Wall Street of these things. We could be the World Trade Center of West Africa. Our people are very resilient, very smart. Listen, there are Ghanaians who have studied Chinese and are very fluent in Chinese. There are Ghanaians who are speaking French. There are Ghanaians who are speaking Swahili. Ghanaians are speaking Spanish. We have not tapped into any of this yet. All right? Now, if you look at some of our regions, Volta region and so on, the sheer volumes of natural resources that are found there, the lithium, the inland oil and gas and all those things. So what is at stake in this election is so high internationally, geopolitically, and nationally, and looking at the future of our nation, that you cannot but make this election very peaceful. Another point, which is really, really my very last, is since 1992 to here, Mutala, you will see that anybody who has been associated with the 1992 Constitution is that dead, is ill, is gone. So there's an organic recharge of young people into politics. You see Adwa here, with her talent and skill that is growing in politics. So it means that this election is one that is a watershed moment for the nation. And it's a moment where the nation will allow itself for a recharge of our democracy. So assuming that John Mahama wins, he marks the end of those who have been associated with the 1992 Constitution. So 2028 is going to be a new path. Ghanaians really want this election to move in the direction of that wind that is blowing towards, believe it or not, NDC with all the polls that is going, that they will have 4 years to rethink about how to construct their government, construct the type of governance they want, construct the type of economy they want, and the youth want to really engage to construct the country that we want. So it is not, Jane Mensah needs to know that it is not her, it's actually something very spiritual that she needs to get herself out of any political leanings, if she has, to be very sincere to prosecute this election in a manner that is so credible. And if she is able to achieve that and convince people through her actions, I believe that she can even go in the history of the country as one of the best Yeesis. Even though she's controversial, she's able to deliver something. No, I mean, if she changes her attitude and really manage to get everybody in and begin to live her life, run this in an expectation that you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So you can see that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Well, if you just join us, Dr. Dudu, thank you. It's a matter of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We're discussing Jane Mensah's call for political parties to accept the results of the elections. She's promised to deliver fair, free, transparent elections, and expects that when she is done, when she pronounces the results, the political parties will all accept. I'll conclude with Ajua on this issue. But before I do that, let me acknowledge Shine FM in Akachi, 96.9, Hills FM in Adakru, 91.7, Newasi Radio in Katakrachi, 89.7, Stella Radio Dabala, 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale, 93.7, Bell Radio Yendi, 106.5, Radio Kitawan Sabuba, 95.7, Benya FM Elmina, 105.7, there's Global FM, Ho, 105.1, Zebs FM in Zebila, 95.9, True FM in Adeso, on 92.5, Lamara FM 89.1 in Tripoli, Boem 88.7 in Jasican, Lukusi 96.1 in Vergolokwati, Tyne FM 90.9, Sekwele 104.3, the Zakpini Radio in Kpando, and of course Citizen TV Ghana. Ajua.
Good morning to you and your viewers.
Good morning.
This morning I'm honored to be on the table of men. And I happen to be the last to speak. And I must say, if you're wondering why I'm wearing this, I'm from the walk, JM Fitness for JM. I went to Spintex this morning to join the people. So in case you're living around that side, you may want to join the people on the walk to Nungwa. And I understand that usually this kind of walk is like a precursor to the launch of our campaign, and it seeks to galvanize our base and also call on all people in the party, to be ready for the launch of our campaign. And so if you're around, you're a young person, go and walk with the other people. That said, on the issue of Madame Jane Mensah, I think that my uncles in here have said quite a lot, but I will also contribute from my perspective. So the long and short of it is that there is some sort of mistrust with the electoral process in this country. And then I began to think, like when I watched the news item, I began to think, how did we get here? How did this begin? And to my mind, I believe all this began with the appointment, or how Madame Jane Mensah was appointed into her office. You would agree with me that her appointment was under some bizarre circumstances. And I believe that has also contributed to the mistrust of people in her competencies to lead Electoral Commission and also other things. So if you would remember, like Honorable and Doc and everybody on this table have said, in this Fourth Republic, this is not the first Electoral Commissioner we are having. We've had Dr. Afarijan, and we saw how he conducted himself. And Dr. Afarijan was allowed to be in office until a time that he actually had to go on a compulsory pension, retirement. And that's, at the time, it happened so that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was the person in power. And so as the Constitution mandates the President to appoint the Electoral Commissioner, this was done, and that was Madame Charlotte Osei. We are all in this country. We saw how when Madame Charlotte Osei, who is also a lawyer and had previously chaired the NCC and so well versed in civil matters, and so it wasn't as though Madame Charlotte Osei was not competent or did not have the qualification to hold that office. But when in this country, we saw how some elements from the NPP even went as far as creating flyers, putting her face on it, and alleging that she was an NDC and she had actually contested primaries for the NDC. They went to every length to try to denigrate the woman, demean her, insult her. And so when this same woman now conducts an election which is peaceful, which did not lead to the murdering of 8 people, 8 citizens, and finally pronounce this current Akufo-Addo government, like the previous one, as the winner of that election, they come and then they use certain ways to try to remove her from office. Now, from the background of how she was treated and how she was welcomed and how her appointment was welcomed by the elements in the NPP, her removal, which was not properly explained to the nation and not based on the fact that she failed at her job or she did something which was woefully wrong, that was supposed to result in her removal from office. Now the NPP appoints Madame Jane Mensah. As a country, as we have seen, the NDC has its base, the NPP has its base, and there are other people also who vote depending on how the economy is or what the propaganda is. Now, after His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has rightfully appointed Madame Charlotte Osei, and all these things that were done to her, she was removed, and you bring another person. What do you think will be the reaction of the people in the country? Then you have created that perception that you did not like the woman from the beginning. I will support anybody who will say that a person who has been appointed to a certain office is not fit for the office and so should be removed. Because in the end, we are building a nation and we want the competent hands on board. But where you come and you use some bizarre excuse to remove a person who have been properly appointed to an office and then appoint your own person into that office, then you have contributed to the mistrust we are seeing today. And after Madame Jane Mensah came into office, her own conduct has further deepened this mistrust in the Electoral Commission. Now we can look at how she conducted the 2020 election. How is it that Madame Jane Mensah conducts an election that ended up disenfranchising some people in the Volta region? We all are here. We know that the NDC stronghold is usually the Volta region and other regions coming together to vote for the NDC. Now you are able to conduct an election that ends up disenfranchising some people, which is the Sao people. By so doing, you created an advantage for Honorable Peter Mewu to be able to take the Hohoe constituency. You see, and we all are some intelligent beings. And sometimes when you are doing something, people may not really know the motivation behind it, but people can tell where there is wrongdoing. And so you did that, and it favored the NPP. So why will people not say that everything you have been doing is to support the NPP? Her appetite to please the people who put her in office is dangerous to our democracy, and she has proven it several times. And like Honorable and other people on this table have said, you conduct an election, and then we do not know till date what the true result of that election is. So it is not even the issue about your conflict of interest or your being biased. It's about you being incompetent also, which is dangerous to us. For young people like myself, this election, like Doc rightly said, means a lot. There is a wind of change blowing. To us, it is not just about somebody holding on to power. Perhaps some people want to hold on to power because they do not want to go to jail. They do not want to account for their mandates because they have done things they want to hide. For young people like myself, it means the future for me because I am in the prime of my life, and just as my friends, and just as Doc said, we live in a country where today, even if you are better, some of my friends and I, in fact, we have packed certificates. We keep going back to school because if you do not have connection in this country, you are not getting any jobs. And what even is more painful is that the government is borrowing and not even investing in strategic areas of the economy. The government is not even trying to build any monumental project that is supposed to create jobs for the young people. The government is not building hospitals to employ my young doctor friends, not my nurse friends. My nurse friends are at home. They are not building anything that is supposed to inure to our benefits. They are not leaving anything behind for us. And so to us, this election means a lot to us. And like we all have said, our democracy has thrived on the successful transition of powers from one regime to the other. And so we cannot discount the important role an electoral commission will play. And we have all said on this platform how Madam Jane Mensah, after the conduct of the 2020 election, is being followed by military men. And I say, even the venerable VCRAC crap, who supervised the first electoral commission in this country and transitioned Ghana from the military regime to the civilian government, did not have military people following him around like that. In that time, that was when we were supposed to have an electoral commission being followed by military men and being protected. You understand me? But today, we are under a civil government, and her allowing those military men to follow her is even an admission that she herself knows that the country does not trust her. She cannot trust herself to be safe because she knows that she has done something wrong, and she by her inactivities and some actions, she has denied certain people their right to exercise their mandate or their franchise, which is wrong for us as a country. Now we have the issue of appointments. Besides her own conduct deepening the mistrust that we have for the Electoral Commission, we've had also activities by the certain government of the day. And I think that Honorable Ndok has spoken largely about it, the appointment of NPP elements into the Electoral Commission. Even in football, when we're playing football, and let's say Haas and Kotoko, we go and bring the coach of Haas to become the referee to supervise the football. Will we not be in the right to say that we will not agree because there is the perception of bias? So the issue is not that there is an actual bias. When it comes to things like this, like election, even the perception, like Doc said, even the perception of bias is very dangerous and inimical to our democracy. And so you cannot appoint NPP elements, people who are more NPP than Alhaji Bawumia himself, because I know that Alhaji Bawumia's family and father comes from the NDC side, and he joined the NPP even recently.
He's even a beneficiary of the PNDC. The scholarship he got was not on academic excellence, but the PNDC scholarship that he got to go and do his.
So that is the flag bearer of the NPP. And we have somebody who has been in the NPP even longer than the flag bearer to be part of the Electoral Commission. Is it not in the right direction that we call for such persons to be removed, even if they are objective, even if they are honest? It doesn't look right. And so to inspire confidence, it is right that those people would be removed from the Electoral Commission so that everybody's mind will be at rest. Now, I also want to say that whether or not we will accept an election result, it does not lie in the mouth of Madam Jane Mensah to tell us, because if we were not to challenge election results, I do not think the framers of the Constitution would even make such provision for election results to be challenged. And she, as a lawyer, should know better that insofar as elections are not conducted in a free and fair manner and the electoral processes are compromised, she should not expect any of us in this country to accept the results. And so I find solace in the comments that was made by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. That sought to explain that this election, we are going to win it at the polls. We are going to go on the field, and we are encouraging all Ghanaian youth and young people to come out massively. There is this saying by Dr. Azuma Nelson, when he was at the prime of his career, and then he would face a lot of racism when he goes to fight. Even when he had, beaten the opponent, they would still call for the opponent. He said that his referee, he stopped believing in the referee. His referee became his left hook. And so he knows that when he gives you the left hook, you are going to black out. And whilst you're on the ground, nobody can call for you and say that he did not win the fight. And so this is the approach we are going into the election with. We are determined to win it at the poll. We are determined to work hard and win it by a vast margin, so much that even Madam Jane Mensah cannot be able to manipulate the result. It is good for her if she decides to change her ways today and water down her appetite to please the NPP, and then think about the future, think about the sustenance of our democracy. Those ones that people who have come before her has worked really hard to sustain for us, the one that we enjoy today. It behoves on her to do her part to help us sustain this democracy. But if her appetite to please the certain governments, and also in the other way around, plunging our nation into chaos, that is what she wants to do. I believe that it is left in her hands to decide. For us, we are determined to bring the change that we want. We are determined to work hard for the change that we want. And even her, she cannot stand in the way of change, because I know that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And the power of the people are even higher than people who see themselves to be in power. And so that is what I have to say about Madam Jane Mensah's statement. I do not think it's a statement that is necessary to be made. And like Doc rightly said, it is a coded message. It looks as if you are preparing the stage to commit a wrongdoing. And as has been highlighted here, it is not just the NDC. Let our viewers not think that it is just the NDC who do not have trust for the Electoral Commission. There is the Afrobarometer result that is indicating that about 67% of this population do not trust Madam Jane Mensah and the Electoral Commission. And even the 33% that had answered that they trusted Madam Jane Mensah, it wasn't all like I trust Madam Jane, it was I trust and somewhat trust. And so even among the 33, there are people who doubt her competencies. There are people who doubt her position. There are people who doubt her honesty. And for a person who is leading an important institution such as the Electoral Commission, it is so important for our democracy, I do not think it is in the right place for the 67% of the population to think that you are biased, you are not competent enough to conduct our elections, and you are dangerous to our democracy. You are likely to engage in activity that will end up resulting in the killing of Ghanaians and bringing chaos and mayhem into the country. That is not a good name to take away, and especially as a woman holding office. I think that she should rethink her position and try to turn things around. Although I believe that it is already late, she has earned a reputation for herself as a person who cannot be trusted, as a person who would do anything to be loyal to her political leanings. And so for her own good, and so that she will be able to freely walk around like previous people who have held the same office as her, she should do it for herself, her family, and her children. It will be better for all of us in this country.
Thank you. Thank you. Ajo concludes the discussion of the very first topic. She says she's too late. Anyway, a few comments coming from those of you who are joining us on Facebook. Tia Hamsa says, please, Great Honorable Mutala for me. We Ghanaians, we are appealing to the EC boss to make sure they do well herself. We already witnessed the 2020 election. This year's election will never happen again. The same way, JDM's is winning this election. We are all out to monitor everything. Election day. This Bedu Kwame, who says this woman should redeem herself before the end of the MPP, or else she will go down as the prettiest. Thank you very much. Mr. Lincoln Akwetiman says, I have no problem with Dr. Papa Kwesindum campaign against the ADM in the 2016 election because he wanted to be voted for to become a president of the Republic of Ghana. I believe how he appealed to JDM is in the right direction. I know his GN bank workers will vote for JDM and the NDC. Franz Otu is also joining us. Senna, good morning. The EC and the CDS are living in the Stone Age, with one promising free and fair elections and the other a guaranteed security when it is their duty to do so, as if they are doing us a favor. There's a we see a boy Vincent who says, good morning. In fact, this so-called EC chairperson is is she telling Ghanaians that whatever results that come out in the 2024 election should be accepted? She should say that to the Marines, not us. Very useless statement. Post J says, EC, judiciary and police service would destroy Ghana before, during, and after the general elections. The entire Ghanaian populace must speak up, else not less than okay. Thank you. There's Receive Mohammed, who is also joining us, saying a good morning. This is a vision. This is vision from Tamale Central. I think every patriotic Ghanaian should give applause to organized labor for their perfect move. They should keep it up. We expect more victory for them. I agree with their decision to ensure the Senate board is dissolved. Cyrus Vivara says, Lawyer should understand James' contest of Father for All, especially when he is meeting Pakwesindum, one of his fiercest critics who did not wish him well. There's Azindo Yewuza, who says, Madam Jimensa should not take Ghanaians for granted. She should prepare for any consequences that will come after her if she tries to rig the elections. There's Lydia Comes also joining us. So many comments that are on Facebook currently. Thank you for sending those comments. And those of you joining us on Facebook, good morning to you. We have to move on to the next topic of discussion. And like I said, I'll start with Doc. It has to do with allegations of land grab, especially by people within the government and also under PPP schemes, among others. The latest is the Du Bois Center, which has come. What? Rob was taking wise, right? Anyway, let me start with Doc on this one.
In fact, this is very worrying when you hear what is happening on our lands. You know, there are a lot of allegations. I've looked at the conversations between Honorable Blakwa and Samuel Jinapo, where one is refuting, allegations, others is pushing. But the speculations itself, or the perception itself around the country, when you go through cantonments, you look at Labone, look at all these, and then the names attached to real estates that you see all over the place. Nobody should tell you that the perception of citizens, and I'm speaking as a citizen, who have come looking at my country and see, how, you know, what's the state of our country? How do we work together to build? I formed this social movement called Gandame Alliance for Change, where we are looking at how to deal with the issues of urban poverty and create jobs for the youth in the Gandame fraternity, and leverage politics through block voting to see how we can help, you know, to change the fortunes of our Gandame people. Sadly, to see that every year 200,000 of them are dropping out from school between the ages of 18 to 25. Most of them who are Gandame. I'm bringing the Gandame people, situating them within this context, that they don't read English or write English well, and yet these are our human capital base. We have jobs in carpentry, in plumbing, and so on that are going to other foreign nationals, and nobody is deliberately investing in them to professionalize them or give them the skills they need to participate in the 30 billion GDP that Greater Accra is going to have. And yet, most of them, they are the allodial owners of a land estate, which were used for the formation of the Republic. So such a perception, if you capture it around the people of Ghana, Adangbe especially, then it speaks to the larger issue of social cohesion challenges in the country, which can erupt in conflict if it is not properly taken care of. I saw a listing from one of the Ghanaian platform of speculations they have of some of these state capture perception, talking about mental hospital, Children's Park, that has been taken, talking about certain prison lands that have been sold in cantonment, in Tamale, all around the prime lands in Bostal Home, so former Bostal Home, Roman Ridge is taking, attack on Nigerian High Commission land, then Straight Fair, the community center, East Legon, and the Marine Drive lands already shared among people. I mean, then citizens are aware that in the last, probably the last 7 years, the rate at which lands have been captured by political elements in government has been very, very worrying, very concerning. Some of the lands that have been earmarked for the extension of the airport, for example, is gone into the hands of private sector. You look at the community center being developed by a private entity, and when you go and check, the name is connected to political government here. So I think we first have to accept that there's a problem. That it is not the right way to do things. The second is some of the lands that are taken, they were earmarked for public goods. So, for example, if you look at the parks and gardens. Now, one of the things for as natural resource experts, when you establish what we call a seed bank or an arboretum, it is for a very good reason. And I'm going to go in technical bit. In terms of silviculture, in terms of how to manage a forest estate, that provides the biodiversity which really becomes very important for the management of environmental resources. Indigenous species that belong to this country need to be protected through seed banks and arboretum, which is in the parks and gardens. Okay, it has enormous benefit. Ghana leverages a lot of money through climate action because we have demonstrated that we have elements, areas such as this. At the same time, what we represent to the world, which is in the books and take money from, we are selling it and converting it for real estate. What are we doing to people like Adwa and their children? In the next 10 years, nobody will go to school and learn about indigenous species that belong to Ghana. Nobody will go to school to learn about other, seed bank, how to manage environmental resources for the benefit of the nation. So the larger point is that public goods that are intended for public goods need to be upheld for that matter. Today's Ghana, we have lands that are located for Council for Scientific Industrial Research, and I am very passionate about this. when Kwame Nkrumah really set out Council for Scientific Industrial Research, he did that linking research and diagnosis, R&Ds, with the critical sectors of the economy. So before we converted all the palm plantations, before we have palm plantations in these areas that we have them, Kede and all those things, he set up the Oil Palm Research Institute to really focus research on that. That in itself gives us experts in plant sciences that are focusing on certain traits. Today, nobody goes to school to study plant sciences, all right? But it is the basis of industrialization. They cut down cutting trees to plant palm because that was important for us. The species that Kwame Nkrumah made a hybridization of from Nigeria and brought to Ghana, resilient and fruiting with a lot of oil in it. It is that he gave as a gift to Lee Kuan Yew to Palm, Singapore and Malaysia for the trees that they have there. Now, before they expanded the cocoa sector, and the cocoa sector were put in between forest estates. So if you look at the design of our forest reserves, it is to provide what they call the microclimate for the growth of the cocoa. All right? Now, he did that by establishing a cocoa research institute. There's a rice research institute in Savannah. All of them were placed under Council for Scientific Industrial Research, which vast land to become the hub for West Africa research in all types of research areas. That's why he created the land and saw the vision in expansion. Today, any country that will grow in Africa would have to grow through agriculture. You have to grow through agriculture. And you can only do that by ensuring that you have a very sound R&D and research base to guide the selection of your seeds so that they can provide the quality that you need in order to be able to bring them as into the manufacturing, processing and manufacturing sector. So research has become something that we have. And all the lands for Council and Scientific Research have been converted to now be sold and being sold into people in politics. You know, the challenge we are faced in this country is that we are creating a perception that if you want to create wealth for yourself, then you have to join the politics. That is very dangerous for our nation. Nation is built by people pursuing ambitions and occupations that are very vital to the growth of the country. And then the second thing is, one thing that could create, it can create a security challenge for us. When you are in a situation where real estate is just springing up in prime lands, then you are likely to engage a country where there's illicit financial flows to this country. Someone will be in another country, take money, and then just come and buy real estate in prime areas. And when you move around the prime areas where the real estates are, most of them are unoccupied. And when you value the lands there, 1.5 million estates, how do you create 1.5 million estates or buildings when no one occupies it? And the one who actually buys that is comfortable. What perception are we given? Recently, we saw one political element having several amounts of money in a house. There's a perception by citizens that some of this real estate, if you go and dig it, you might find millions and millions of USD and euros. Now, all these perceptions create a brand for the country, which we need to manage from security perspective and from a foreign direct investment perspective and international relations perspective. So it has this land issue and grabs has large implication. The final implication that it has is the perception that is given to the youth, particularly of Ghana fraternity, to see that prime lands that belong to maybe their households and families are in the hands of other people that they are not able to leverage. And most of them are not paying property taxes. If you look at property taxes alone, if they are going to give them back to Ghana people, it's over billions and billions of dollars that can be used for the transformation of the people. So this issue of land grab is not just maybe MPP. It's all over.
It's worse.
You can say it's worse, and admittedly that it is also in NDC as well. And so what we need to do is that we need to move forward by addressing this issue. Number one, it must be seen as a no-no. Lands that are allocated for public goods must be maintained for public goods. And if there's going to be a change in that, there must be a national consultation with the right stakeholders to guide it. Look at trade fair. Every country I've been to, every serious country I've worked in, I've maintained their trade fair status. You know, you want to grow entrepreneur. We talk about private sector as the engine of growth in this country. Entrepreneurs, you know, youth jobs and all these things. Now, where are they going to showcase their products and brand? Where are they going to showcase their innovation? We used to have Tratec in KNUST, you know, and Tratec, Trade and Technology Fair, it is, do you believe it, some of the first Kanda Highway, the concept was designed by a student in a mechanical student, Juliet, in Tratec. And Rollins came and saw that. And that's what they used for the building of the Kanda Highway. You want the youth you want innovation to express itself. I went to Polytechnic, Tamale Polytechnic, and I saw some of the things that home science, the women have done using different products and packaging them for their thesis. Now we are here, we are talking about made in Ghana products. Go to the polytechnics in the northern region and others. You will see they are all in shelves at thesis. Why haven't they find themselves expressed in our supermarkets? You kill trade fair to raise real estate. For what? No, for what? As we transform our land asset, there must be a certain ideology around it. You transforming this land asset for what? You're taking Achimota forest, you targeting it for real estate, for what purpose? You know, and then the allodian owners, nobody consult them. Those who willingly gave the land out for the formation of the republic, if you've changed the use of that land, there must be a certain level of conversation with them to say, hey, it's no longer CSIR land, we want to take it for something else. And maybe you'll be given the first preference to buy it. I mean, it borders on human rights. It borders on issues of posterity. And it really, really borders on issues of how we manage our natural assets for posterity. And I think we need to rethink. It's a crisis situation, and something has to be done, either through policy or some kind of draconian laws that would prevent these things happening.
Great, Doc. In fact, the Honorable Kujata Blakwa is actually not only raising these issues, he is moving a private member's bill to at least bar those who occupy public office from acquiring these properties. We have to take a break. We'll be right back. Give us a moment.
Into the land of freedom, He's the Redeemer. He has labored.
Our purpose here this afternoon will be twofold. It is to provide you with a briefing on our preparedness for the upcoming general election in December 2024, and to address any questions you may have. Additionally, we are open to receiving your feedback and input, which we believe will strengthen our work and our electoral processes. I'd like to begin by assuring you that as a commission, we are poised and ready to deliver free, fair, credible, transparent and peaceful elections come the 7th of December 2024. Before I share our 2024 election program, please permit me to highlight a number of policy decisions we have taken as a commission. First, no new CI will be laid before Parliament ahead of the 2024 election. As such, the Commission relied on the current registration CI, that is CI 91, to conduct the voter registration exercise.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
To the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji live from the Sergeant for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan-African Television. Of course, we are live on Facebook, Pan-African Television, YouTube, Pan-African Television. We are live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM, on many other affiliate stations across the country. Before we move on, this positive change in Medina, who says, when the citizens of a nation deem the most accomplished chiefs as the most electable, then they lose the right to complain when theft becomes their national creed. Ghanaians were warned not to vote for this government, but never listened. Today, the hardship is real, and it is harder than the 1983 crisis. Thank you very much. That's positive change in Medina, who sent me that message. Tafai Namrahia says, I was shocked when I saw the number of military following Jean Mensa. Even President of America doesn't have this kind of military protection. Jean Mensa herself believes that she's doing something wrong. That's why she's probably moving around with almost a full battalion. Thank you, Tafa, for that comments. I think we can take the comments of Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed on this. Comrade, the matter of the land issue.
Let me say that, Doctor, fantastic presentation. I think that one of the bane of our inability to develop in a manner that the likes of Nkrumah envisaged was when we pushed research to the back burner. Research is just like diagnosing an illness. You can't find the right antidote to an illness if you do not diagnose to know what that illness is. If not, you'll be doing firefighting. Those days, you are sick, you just have to go and buy malaria drug. You may be treating malaria when in actual fact the sickness has nothing to do with malaria. So research is one area that I think that we haven't given so much attention. And if you listen and read some of the things Nkrumah did, it baffles you when you hear people make such outrageous statement comparing the most useless and corrupt government in the history of this country to the vision Nkrumah had and what Nkrumah did. Strangely, Nkrumah didn't leave office with even a home. Nkrumah didn't have a house to himself. Unknown to many people, the Patriotic Lodge was Nkrumah's property. The initial building of the Patriotic Lodge was a contribution women made to Nkrumah. That was how the Patriotic Lodge started. And he put up that house. And subsequently, successive governments have expanded it. Even when he decided to hand it over to the state, after he completed building it, he was handing it over to the state. The women were not happy. We didn't give you the money. We didn't contribute for you to build it, to give it to the state. We did that for you. Nkrumah handed it over. Unknown to many people, Nkrumah is even suits. We're embossed, property of Ghana. I mean, this was suits. He spent everything, singlets, property of Ghana. Yet you have this Napo gentleman describing Nkrumah that Munkrumah. And people, I mean, it's ridiculous. But you see, the land grabbing is legendary. I can understand the frustrations, Doctor, and many of our friends in Greater Accra and the Gang community feel about the grabbing of their lands. Tamale, we are also a victim. Why is it that this land grabbing is set everywhere apart from Kumasi? Apart from Ashanti, you do know the reason? That Santihino will not countenance under any circumstance the kinds of things they do in other places of this country. He won't countenance it under any circumstance within his jurisdiction and area of control. Look, Tamale, for example, And let me make this point very clearly. Allodial lands, they have allodial owners of a land. And lawyer, you are here. If I make a mistake, you correct me. Our land laws are very clear. The state can acquire any land. In fact, sometimes there can be compulsory acquisition of lands. For a purpose, for a state to acquire a land or a compulsory acquisition, the state will have to provide reasons what they want to use that land for. Is that not the point? Now, when the state ceases to use that land for the purpose for which it was acquired, the state would have to give the land back to the traditional, the allodial owners. Is that not what the law says? That's what I'm saying. The allodial owners, the state would have to give back the land. Now, and I'm raising this point because certain issues came up in Tamale. When the state acquires a land for a purpose and ceases to use that land for that purpose and return the land to the allodial owners, and you buy it from them, we don't have any problem at all with that. There is no problem at all with that. You know, where my house is at Nari Village. When I raised this issue about the land, our friends in MPP says, I also live in Nari Village. That land was given back to them. You go to Catherine Rest House, where we call it Garden. It was returned back to Tanzamna, and many people bought lands there. We don't have any problem with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But our argument is when the purpose for which the land was acquired by the state is still relevant, and then you go behind it to buy it from the state. That is why we have the problem. Come to Tamale, the West Hospital. Tamale population is growing day by day. The number of people who used to attend, if you go and look at traffic flow or the frequency of people who attended the West Hospital 10, 20 years ago, it has more than quadrupled because the population of Tamale is escalating. So you now have more people going there. Even at that stage, they had bungalows or accommodation for workers in the hospital. This government has decided to sell all those lands. The purpose for which the lands were acquired are still used, are still relevant. The hospital is growing. In fact, it is more relevant now than the time it was acquired and the buildings were put there. You have not returned the land to the traditional owners or the allodial owners, and you have decided to use the power of government to sell those lands. That is illegal. That is a crime. You go to the local government, if you know Tamale very well, from Anglican side, where the NDC regional offices, the entire stretch, they have sold the land. And you know the brain behind the selling them. The MPP parliamentary candidate for Tamale South. And this accusation was made by no less a person than a communicator of MPP on TV, local TV in Tamale. And the guy has not denied that. GBC land, they sold some and were attempting to sell more of the lands. Look, if you know the Tamale prisons is in the premises of the Ghana Police Service. So you have the prisons at it's just in the same compound of the the Metro Police and Regional Police Administration. The only accommodation available, or which used to be available for prison officers, was about 800 meters, or about 800 meters away from where the prisons is. Know what has happened? They told the occupants, the prison officers, to leave the place almost a year and a half ago. And they called me and complained to me as their representative because that area is within Tamale Central. I personally complained to Honorable Abu Jinapo, who is the Minister for Lands. And he told me to write officially. I did. And he told me, oh, this is not acceptable. I'm angry to even see it. As we say today, the people were sacked. The buildings were, the roofs were taken off. Abu cannot pretend innocence. He can't tell me that. Those people have left. They've sold them to their party boys. Abu Jinapo cannot feign innocence. I complained to you, and you told me to write. I officially wrote. And he said it will never happen. It has happened. The West Hospital, sorry, the same thing. It has happened. I filed an urgent question And he's supposed to answer the urgent question. It's been shifting. It has ceased to be even an urgent question. This is the third week. So it was shifted to Monday. I want to simply know who authorized the sales of such lands. I'm told there is a Selga station in Tamale. If you know the ADB. The Selga station, that land, I'm told, has also been sold. Fire service, Nobisco, Old Airport have all been sold. Why? As if Ghana will end tomorrow. Now, if those lands were to be sold the manner in which they are selling them, do you think you would have met them? And on the floor of Parliament, in contributing to this, I said they sell the lands like they are sharing granules. And then the MPP were uncomfortable why I said they are sharing the lands as if they are sharing granules. It's everywhere. Look, the NDC position is very clear. Anybody who put up a structure in such land should be demolished. And if you go to the West Hospital, what they are doing is that they are hurriedly building. Day and night, in the night they are building. Mansions have been demolished. Yesterday, a gentleman called me and told me that he also bought one of the state lands. I said, did you buy it from the traditional authorities? He said, no. I said, did they return the land to the traditional authorities? He said, no. I said, my brother, my advice is that don't put up any structure there. If you put up any structure, inshallah, NDC come to power, it will be demolished. Because you see, they do this when they are demolishing them, they will say the government is cruel. When your action is more than cruelty to the people of Tamale. Now, that hospital, doctors don't have accommodation. The only accommodations that were left, you have decided to buy them because you have made so much money. The doctors will have to stay at far distances. And when their services are needed under urgent circumstances, they will not be able to come there. Now, if your mother or your grandmother or your family member is sick, they bring the person to that hospital. And they need an expert to attend to that person to be able to save the life of the person. And that doctor would have to travel far distances because you bought the accommodation, demolish it, and put up a building. And then that your relative dies, who caused the death? So these are some of the issues. And those things are happening. The Minister for Lands, Honorable Abu Jinapo, is absolutely responsible. He cannot claim innocence over them. If he claims innocence, then he's unfit to be the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. If he claims that he doesn't know, because all those who work in the regions work under your supervision. And it is not as if those things were done unknowingly to you. Those things, when they started, we informed you. Those things, when they started, we informed you. We told you. You asked me to write. I wrote officially. Sent it to your office. Yet nothing has happened. And the fear for which reason those complaints were made, that fear has not been allayed. And you find some people, you can't criticize these people. What kind of country are we developing? Look, you go to East Legon, under bridge. Those lands were not left there for nothing. They were left there for a purpose. They have taken over. Every single land. You go to cantonments, and the information I have is that they will sell the land, an amount of money, put that in the coffers and turn and sell that land to another person for huge sums of money. Because they will tell you that this land has been sold for $30,000 or $40,000. That will be registered in the state. And you just ask yourself, how would anybody in his rightful sense sell this land at this amount of money here? Why? Haven't we seen houses being demolished recently? Buildings that belong to Zikinida, Japan's brother, were they not demolished? Those who are hurriedly and speedily putting up those structures, when they are demolishing them, they should not blame anybody. Because they would have known that it's a state land. The purpose for which the state acquired those lands were still relevant. The state has not relinquished the land to the allodial owners, or if you like, most often in the traditional authorities. If the state did that and you go ahead and take them, there's no any problem. You buy them from the traditional authorities. But since they are still, the purpose for which they were acquired are still relevant, and you buy them, and anything happens tomorrow, don't blame anybody. I think that President Mahama would, and I am very convinced, take the steps to correct some of these things that are happening in this country, particularly on the issue of land grabbing. And I'll conclude on the trade fair. I had the privileged opportunity to have been the Deputy Minister for Trade. The issue of the trade fair came up sometime. We had investors who were willing to invest from Dubai. The reason why we didn't go ahead with it, we felt that the state was not going to benefit hugely from that investment. And this is how responsible governments are. The government then felt it's a very good idea, but if you look at what they were proposing, it was going to be in joint partnership with the state. But what they were proposing, the state government felt at the time that it was not going to be, entirely beneficial to government of Ghana. So government of Ghana didn't proceed with that particular process. Then you have given everything to McDan. This is a gentleman who sat on Good Evening Ghana and says that he's an MPP activist. And I thought he was a businessman. And you have MPP people, NDC people who are going to them. And what impudence. And they think that they can be protected against the wrongs. And I agree with my brother on this score, apart from the Ndum, on this particular one. Those who acquired such things illegally and who acquires them immorally, because there are certain things that can be legally right, but morally wrong. And they hardly are doing documents so that one day they can say that we acquired this land through the due process, when that process itself was corrupted. It's just like Osafo Mafuenko, people were engaged, they sacked them when the MPP came to power, and they said that the process was corrupt. So for me, that was a precedence. When you engage in such things thinking that you can fictitiously get the necessary documentation so that one day the leg on which you stand to justify your acquisition of that land will be that you follow due process, the precedent that was set would be followed. That's what I have to say on this matter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, comrade. Well, I think we can take your views now.
In fact, this land issue, for me, is a symptom of the massive deprivation of leadership in this country. Because if you follow the debate between Okujeto and what's called Abu, the conclusion I come to is that all of them, as in whether President Mahama, Nanado, Bamia, lack the moral authority even to attempt to defend this. Because when you are talking about this issue, you see, we need to have recourse to our constitution. And then the disappointment is that I know Prof here did a fantastic job and was calling for a draconian law, but the laws are already there. The laws are already there. It's not as if the laws are already there. You go to our constitution, Article 257, and it says that what public land shall be vested in the president on behalf of and in trust for the people of Ghana. Because the issue concerns public lands. You understand? So, for me, the same, my angst is similar to the angst I had concerning the Galamsey issue. And indeed, if I want to expand this issue, it should even include Galamsey. Because when you define land, land is not just about the bare land, but everything also in the land and everything up. You understand? But then for me, my difficulty is, a trust has been created in you, the president. So I get your anger with Abu Jinapo, but you must direct the anger first to President Nanado.
Oh, but he works with him all.
No, but the trust has been created in the president. You understand? Is the trust been created in the president? I'm not saying don't get angry with Abu Jinapo, but don't get angry with Abu Jinapo and leave out the person in whom a trust has been created.
When we are talking about things that are hot.
No, mention the fire, but that's the source. And the difficulty some of us also have with the NDC, and I don't like generalizing things, because I know that people in the NDC, like yourself, I don't doubt your commitment, who are committed to us creating that Ghana, you understand, where we can reclaim a position as the shining star of Africa. But I have a situation where your presidential candidate, former President Mahama, attempted to purchase his vice presidential residence.
No. You see, that's another misleading factor. Hold on. per the constitution, in fact, lawyer, I beg you, lawyer, no, just I beg you. That's why I said I beg you. That's why I said I beg you, lawyer. The state has a responsibility to provide every ex-president with accommodation. Where President Mahama was living, he was living there as a vice president. So I have an issue. It was not even befitting for a president, because the president had his accommodation. He was living there as a vice president. Now, when he became president and his tenure ended, instead of providing any state house for me, I prefer to be here. President Kufuor wanted to take the NYAP building. You remember? That big building. So that erroneous impression is clear, and I've heard it, that he attempted to purchase. No, requested to the state. If you are providing me with accommodation, I prefer this, even though it was not befitting for a president. It was meant for a vice president. I have stayed then. It was even a service to the state.
Okay,
you don't know.
It's clear. Okay. Thank you, Lord.
Listen,
Please go ahead.
At the end of the day, under the watch of His Excellency John Mahama, public lands were sold. Which one? Yes, for there are some that I can't mention because I'm tied by. No. Listen, I'm coming. It is your time. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you see, we seem to have created a certain culture that allows for some of these things, and that's what I was talking about. That parochial political culture. Oh, I beg, but you see, even beyond that. Now, when I beg you, when you expand, you have said it. Yeah, understand? Yeah. Now, if I'm to expand it, purchasing of government property, understand? Attempts to sell, what's it called? Give state concessions to people who are close to you. Attempt to sell state shares, you understand, to people who are close to you. It's gone on MPP, NDC. But my worry is the level of acceptance by these practices by our system. That's what I mean by we have sat down for this crazy political culture to be created in this country, which is destroying the country, which is destroying the spirit of the country. Because like I said, if I'm supposed to expand this, then they include the minerals, because the minerals are also the property of the country. At the end of the day, when you are president, a trust is created in you to protect the property of Ghana. Because, as in, we can go, and I think Prof has done a very good job in expanding the advantages. But also, you understand that your natural resources are the basis for the inflows of investment of FDIs into your country. And there's a reason why you, the president, the constitution created a trust in you. Yeah, you understand? My worry is, we've created an environment which enables these devilish acts. We've created that environment. So the reason why people do politics is not because, like I keep on saying, because they think they have something to offer to the state, but because of what they think they can get, what they think they can steal. You understand? And back again to President Mahama and Mutala, I beg you, don't interject. Because when you are speaking everything, I agree with you. So no, it's not untruthful. What have I said which is untruthful?
Excellency tried
but it's not untrue.
Allow him to first say
when I understand, because it's not everything you say that I agree with. You understand? So when, as in his recent meeting the press, he said that when he becomes president, he would allow the small people to do their galamsey, or in the hope of capturing the big ones.
He asked me a question.
Let me finish. You have Lady Adjoa will give the necessary rebuttals. You see, Lady Adjoa will give. Lady Adjoa, allow Lady Adjoa. Lady Adjoa will give the necessary rebuttals. No, so if I say something which you think is not right, you have about 2 or 3 these people here. Adjoa will give the rebuttal, which is allowed. Yeah, understand. But when you give the impression that you are going to bat a lid, and allow the small galamseys to steal our property, because really galamsey is stealing. When people do galamsey, they are stealing our property, because the president holds the minerals of this country in trust for all of us. Then clearly you are breaching the fundamental job we've placed on you. The point I want to say, and that's why I'm bringing John Mahama. I think as to the extent to which Nana Addo leadership has breached this fundamental. It is unprecedented. But the people of Ghana need to understand that it's happening because both of them, both parties or their leaders, lack that fundamental commitment to fulfill this obligation that the Constitution placed upon them. You understand? There's no commitment. And also, they've also sat down and allowed that culture because it inures to their benefit. Where the politics that is done in this country is based on what am I going to get from it. And my comrade here on that score, I agree with him. That's about how MPs have been coming to see as people because all in their bid to fight for their personal interests as against the interests of the whole. You understand? Now, Senna, I know I want to give Adjoa also some fair time to also speak. I'll be like you. You understand? I think we are on the brink as a people. Mm-hmm. Trust me. I think as a people, we are on the brink. We are on the brink because of the way we've handled politics in this country. In the way we've done politics in this country, the way our politics is fueled by our parochial interests as against the national interest. The way politics is done where we do not have regard to ethos and principles. You mentioned morals. The way politics is done where politicians don't see anything wrong with attempting to purchase, like Brian Champon's case, purchase property that belongs to all Ghanaians, and the fact that political actors do not have any qualms in attempting to defend this evil, fundamental evil being done to the people of Ghana. What it does is, it breaches the trust which is needed in the system of governance that we've chosen upon ourselves. And then the dangerous impotence, where that trust is breached. You just need to look at Somalia as a failed state. But if we do not bring a stop to this politics fueled by a parochial culture or spirit, then the whole nation stands at risk of being a failed nation, being a situation similar to where Somalia found itself, being a situation where our country will be thrown into fundamental chaos. I don't want to go to, because I think Mutakala did a very good job at that. And like I'm saying, because Article 20 deals with how public lands are to be treated, how they were acquired, and how they can be let go. That where, for whatever reason, you the state, you think you don't need the public property again, you give the people you took the property from the first chance of repurchasing the property. But you do not come into power. You fail to create a lot of cantonments, and they all want cantonments. Meanwhile, with the power you have, you can create cantonments all over the place. They all want cantonments. You understand? But the laws are there. The laws are there. You, the president, you took an oath to protect what? The laws. Because we don't need to create new laws. Because the laws are already there. Indeed, the Constitution has dealt with this issue. How this issue has to be handled. You understand? So for me, my issue is the lack of commitment. My issue is the kind of culture we've created that is enabling these fundamental breaches of the commitments of leadership. And to use this opportunity to call on all Ghanaians, let us throw our weight, our support behind Honorable Alhaji to forge this new Ghana. A Ghana where we will all come together. Mutala will be brought, Mutala, my own comrade, as he has a passion for the high spirit. We all come together to form that one Ghana and create a new culture. A culture that will encourage the citizens of this country to participate actively in the politics. Let's create a culture where in every decision we take, the national interest is paramount. Not our particular interest, not our local interest, but what is in the best interest of Ghana. Because we have no choice, and we can start the process that will cause Ghana to rise and take its rightful place as the star of Ghana. Let's start that process by voting for Honorable Alhaji come 7 December 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You seem to have drawn the attention of Ambassador Sampia, who says the Ghana Trust collapsed when the trustee himself signed an executive instrument on the ownership of the Achimota Forest. Note, Councillor Pia Dankwa, how do you attempt to justify this shameful annexation of state property only on the basis that His Excellency John Mahama was engaged in state capture only upon his application for a state bungalow for which he is constitutionally entitled to?
That's in which you are attempting to justify anything.
But you said you wanted
Yeah, but that is not a justification. I'm not justifying.
Gentlemen.
It's not telling.
In fact, this one says, this question about what kind of, it's a depraved human being steals land meant for the rehabilitation of mental patients, children, horticultural preservation, judges and others. Answer, Ekufuado Ken of Weata and Abujina Podas Kojo Chumba for who sent that. Adwa.
You know, as lawyer was talking for a moment, I forgot why he was here. He's here for the butterfly movement. Their leader is Mr. Alan Tremartin, right? He mentioned the same person who was part of the NPP, right? Or is it a different? Ah, okay, so okay.
So what are you talking about? What's the point?
So it's the same Mr. Alan Tremartin who was part of the NPP, the same NPP that has brought us here, the same Mr. Alan Tremartin who, when he was benefiting from the dissipation of this country, was very quiet and never voiced out what his challenges were with this government until he was not given what he wanted. Because sometimes when lawyer is making his presentation, I forget that he's here representing Mr. Alan Tremartin. Yes, I did not. Oh, you just told a falsehood, and I was trying to bring your attention to it, saying that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama attempted to purchase the bungalow that was given to him. It was wrong, it was false, and it was rightly corrected, so I'll not go into it. But I just wanted to be sure that it was the same Mr. Alan Tremartin of the NPP that we are talking about, whose representative is calling the NDC and the NPP to come to equity. I do not understand what lawyer is saying when he tries to smear us into the wrongdoings of the NPP, and this has been one of the challenges of this country. You know, when the NPP does something which is wrong, then we rope in the NDC just so we appear to be objective. That is ingenuine, and it's not going to help us as a country. That said, the issue on the Galamsey that he raised, it is not true that His Excellency, he sought to create the impression that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is in support of Galamsey. What we must note this morning is that there is a difference between Galamsey and small-scale mining. And I know he's a lawyer, so he knows, because he's probably done natural resources. So you know the difference between small-scale mining and what Galamsey is. What His Excellency John Dramani Mahama said was that he was going to grant amnesty to these petty artisans who have been used by big men in politics and big men in this country to go and do this mining. These young people who have been arrested, because imagine, look at the country where we live right now. It is not easy for young people. Young people, like Doc was saying, you can gather all the certificates and you will still not have a job. You still not have opportunities. Your life does not have any direction. And so these people who are poor, not because of their own doings, but because their environment have not allowed them to thrive, will be used as tools in the hands of politicians and bigwigs who have the money to buy those machines for them to go into the pit. When these young people are arrested, they are left in prisons to rot away. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama said that the fight is misdirected. Rather, we will look at those who have the money to buy those machines to give to the young people to go into the pits. And I think it is a call in the right direction. That's arresting those young people will not solve the problem. It means that they are going to look for more poor young people and then give them chicken change to go into the pit, risk their life, and try to make money for themselves. So to solve the problem, we must attack it from the head by making sure that those in government who have acquired so much wealth and sponsoring such activities are rather arrested instead of the young people. And so His Excellency John Dramani Mahama never said that he was in support of Galamsey. Rather, he was going to reform and integrate all the sectors and make sure that even if we're doing community mining or small-scale mining, it is done properly, and those lands will be properly reclaimed so that we do not have issues. That said, I'll move to the topic that was tabled for discussion. I must say that when all of you were talking, at some point I got very, very emotional listening to how the lands of the country are being grabbed from left, right, center by people in whom we have entrusted our future, our properties, our land to look after for us. These are lands that some people have come to fight for. Some people have died for. Some people have defended this country. And it is our turn to now take care of these assets and build a country worthy of living in for us and our children. Now, we are seeing people in government, people who are supposed to protect these lands, rather grabbing the lands for themselves like there is no tomorrow. And on this note, I must commend Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa for his activism, because I believe that although this menace had been going on, it was through his activism that people like me even came to know that things like this were happening. And like Honorable Mutala said, the grabbing of state land has deepened and has arisen so high within this administration. Sometimes I think to myself, and I do not know what contributions the leaders of the NPP or the founders of the NPP believe they have contributed to this country that is so superior to the contributions made by other people to have this country, such that they believe that they are entitled to certain things in this country and that they should be allowed to grab it all. I do not understand why these governments believe that they should be able to go enter into any land and grab for themselves lands that belong to the people of Ghana. It is rather sad, and if you're a young person watching me today, do not sit at home and say that you do not care. Because this is our future. They are taking it all away from us for their children. And what happens to the ordinary Ghanaian who is not born by a person sitting in a higher place today, who is not born into riches, or whose father is not opportune to be in a position where he also can grab state land for themselves. So for a country to develop, for all of us to be happy in this country, for the, security to be ensured, it must be ensured that a level playground is given by people in power, so that the disparities between the rich and the poor is not so vast. If not, then we are breeding a lot of criminals in this country. Now, on the issue that we came here to discuss, which is the Du Bois Center, which is up for grabs now. I was looking at it. So apparently, according to Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, the government is willing to hand over the museum and the library and other items to a private person for a 50-year period. 50 years. And this is not the first time we have seen this government giving out state assets to their cronies and their friends. We have seen the collateralization of even Gets Fund, which is so important to the educational sector. And we have seen the repercussions of it, how desperate it has made some schools such that they are increasing their prices, and it's affecting young people. And that has gone into the recent Ghana Statistical Service survey that said that about 1.9 million youth are without jobs and are not in school. So whereas they are not creating jobs, the school has even become a luxury you cannot attend because of the same collateralization, the capping and realigning of Gets Fund. Today we are here. Another asset of the government is being handed over to a private person for 50 years. And to add salt to injury, per the expose by Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, monies that were supposed to be even paid into the coffers of this body had not been paid. That is about $13 million. That was supposed to be left in a fund, and some performance bond that was supposed to be issued. And he makes the point about what due diligence was made. This took my mind to recently the Torenko deal that was done. Also showed that there was no due diligence done by by the parties. And so it has become the behavior and the character of this government to ensure that when they want to now pass over state assets to their cronies, they do not make any due diligence. And so even though this person who wants to acquire this property, that is a state property, does not have the money to pay for it, does not even have any strategic partners who will be able to pay for such assets, they are just transferring the assets, just like it happened in the PDS deal. They did not have the money there. They were just interested in transferring the state assets to people to benefit themselves. And so I tell young people today, I know that now it is more difficult to do politics as a young person. And so sometimes when I see some of my colleagues, you would rather dance on TikTok than to listen to political debates, because it is so painful. You listen to the kind of things people in leadership are doing, because sometimes you think about it. Why do we have some young people in politics? When people ask me, Alhaji, you're so young, why are you in politics? It is because some people have failed me. Because I'm supposed to be in school and be on vacation and be doing other things that young girls do. But I am here today on the table talking, seeing the need to add my voice, because there are people who have been put in leadership who are supposed to know better, who benefited more in their time because people who came before them did the right thing. These people are now hijacking our future, and not that they are doing it inadvertently. These are deliberate actions to hijack our future, to frustrate us and make sure that we become a tool in their hands. And so it becomes very, very painful to listen to some of these political discussions, to think that a person who has been elected to sit in office and hold the properties of the state in trust on our behalf, it has now become the same person who is now deliberately dissipating these state assets and giving it to his friends, his cronies, and his proteges. It's really sad. And so I encourage young people today, get up. Do not say that you are tired or it is painful. People came and they were like you. They fought with their blood. They fought with their voices. And so wake up today and join the NDC. If you're a young person, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is telling you that he has done it before. We were in this country when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was president. We all saw the monumental things he built. He built hospitals. He built schools. He built roads. And as a third world country, we had people from the opposition, universities, and people in the opposition telling people of Ghana that we do not eat hospitals, neither do we eat schools. Today we have seen that we eat schools and we eat hospitals, because if the hospitals are not there, how do you get the jobs? If the schools are not there, how do you go and teach? If the universities are not there, how do you attend school? These are the things we eat. These are the very things we eat. And so, rise up today and support His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Come out in your numbers and vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, because he has many plans for the youth of this country. This government has been in power for how many years now? Almost 8 years. And if you ask their communicators and even people in government to mention to you the monumental things they have done, they will not be able to mention. Meanwhile, they just get up and say, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, he's been president before, and we've seen him before. Yes, we've seen him before. We saw that he built UGMC. He built UGMC. We've seen his governance before, because we are seeing the E-blocks around. We are seeing the overheads around. We saw what he did with our economy, with all the challenges. We saw the unemployed. Yes, unemployment rate, we saw it that it was around 8%. And we saw the kind of things he was doing. Today, he's telling us that when he comes, he's bringing the 24-hour economy, which is to create jobs for us. The 1 million coders program, which is to create jobs for the young people of this country. We have the National Women's Bank, which he's seeking to target women like myself, who wants to do business and who do not have collateral to obtain some funds. Today, even the young people, as they are not creating jobs for us and we are doing online business, they are still taxing us left, right, and center. And the exchange rate is not also allowing us to even do business and earn some decent income. And so you have a government today who is only interested in stealing your assets, in taking that which is rightfully yours, and hijacking your future. And you have one who is coming and has done it before, telling you that he will continue with this good work. And His Excellency John Dramani Mahama have the young people of this country at heart. And so I believe that his second coming is going to be better for us. And so I encourage all my friends and young people to get up and rise up for change today.
Rajua, thank you. Oh, I've lost the. I've actually lost the message I was going to read.
No. My only issue, just one issue.
You don't have any.
You don't have any. You say amnesty, then you accept that what has been done for which you are given but a great.
In fact, what this whole matter of the residency matter, Raymond Nacha has also jumped into it. Says, Senna, it is not true that former President Mahama tried to buy his residence. What I know is that all presidents are entitled to an official residence upon retirement. Jerry Rawlings lived in his bungalow. A whole new house has been built for former President Kufuor. Former President Mills got nothing. Former President Mahama, upon leaving office, may have indicated in the event that he want to allocate me a bungalow as ex-president, he would like to stay at the old bungalow instead of the state building a whole new bungalow for him as ex-president. The MPP government refused. They kicked off him out of the house and sent the media to fly drones over his house and filming his family and humiliated him. To date, former President Mahama has never been allocated an official bungalow as required under the Constitution. Even his electricity bill has never been paid since he left office. They rather sent ECG to go to his home and disconnect his electricity, thinking he was not paying. To their surprise, the man was paying his own electricity bill. How does this situation compare with the ongoing land looting? He continues to say there is a government agency inherited by this government. The staff of the agency have been asked to go home, and the management are still being paid by government. However, they have been asked to stay at home whilst their offices, land and warehouses of the agency has been sold by the office of the president to a private MPP man for his personal business. Even the board has been asked to stay home. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for sending your comments into the show today. This is a matter of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Of course, we're live Pan-African television from our studios and also live on Radio Go. We're also live on social media, and thank you for those of you who watch us through social media and shared your thoughts with us. A big thank you to lawyer Andrew Appiah Danko. Always a pleasure seeing him. Yes.
And to add that today, the man of the match is Adjoa. Woman of the match.
From the movement of change, the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, a big thank you to Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed for joining us. He is member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Of course, Adjoa Jampoma Anso. This has been in the works for a long time. Nice to see you again, and stay around for a bit longer. Well, and of course, we had Dr. Ishmael Amano Dudu, who is an African human development expert. Thank you very much. As always, the pleasure is always ours. And a big thank you to my crew, who is led by producers Tijani Badamasi, Irabna Frimpong, Latifa Adams, director Dion Hubert, sound TT. A big thank you to Sewa, who started the directing. Thank you all very much. We are back same time next week with another edition of the Matter of All talk shows, live on Pan-African television, also live on Radio Code. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fruitful week.
He has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer,